Williams and Stanley Berryhill have been suspended for 6 games, while CJ Moore, Quintez Cephas, and Shaka Toney have been suspended indefinitely for betting on NFL games. And down in Jacksonville, the Nashville Sounds broke their 5-game losing streak thanks to a 3-run homer from Alex Jackson in the 9th inning, taking down the Jumbo Shrimp 3-1. Caleb Bosley pitched 5 innings, allowing 3 hits, 1 earned run, and striking out 5. You're listening to 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
For more, follow us on Twitter at 102.5 The Game or visit thegamenashville.com. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne. Broadcasting on Alexa.
I appreciate that.
And other smart speakers. 102.5 and 106.3.
1, 2, 3.
I think it was a good game. Had a couple of big plays.
Oh, man, yes, he scored.
The Game.
A Cromwell media station.
Where you have a voice.
He had a competent coaching staff. You just play terrible and you keep playing.
And we have strong opinions.
What a whiny freaking crybaby response.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman. Presented by TriStar Moving on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company's delivered by TriStar Moving, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live, thanks to Superbook Sports. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. Fireball Hot Take Friday. Ian is here today. Hello, Ian.
What up, what up?
So we have, in 15 minutes, my greatest conspiracy theory yet. Ian, have you listened through the conspiracy theory?
Not all of it, no, not yet.
But would you agree that it is quite the conspiracy theory?
Yes, I would agree with that.
So, I mean, we got to roll out the conspiracy theories for the Fireball Hot Take Friday. But I was awakened this morning to go on the Robby and Joe program on Robby and Rex Road. And sometimes, I literally woke up at like 6:55. And then I went on the Robby and Rex Road program at 7. And Joe hit me with some news that I wasn't ready for because they asked me, what's best case scenario for the Titans heading into the draft? And I said, for me, best thing that could happen is that the Titans trade up and get C.J. Stroud or that the Titans trade up and get Anthony Richardson. Best thing for me is that they end up with either C.J. Stroud or Anthony Richardson. And Joe says, well, Bob McGinn. And Bob McGinn is a legendary writer in Green Bay. I mean, he's one of the old school guys. He's one of the guys who has the sources. Bob McGinn reported that Bryce Young absolutely crushed his S2. He got, and let me see where they have the score here for Bryce Young. Bryce Young had a great score on his, and C.J. Stroud had a terrible score. And he said, okay, Bryce Young had a, 98. C.J. Stroud had an 18. And Joe was like, does that worry you? Now, let me say this. I knew that they had been doing some kind of S2 test because people had talked about it that basically replaces the Wonderlic test, but they're not the same kind of test. So I spent all morning reading up about this S2. Now, I talked to a Power 5 coordinator, and I asked him what he thought about it. He said he never heard of it. I talked to a Power 5 athletic director. I asked him, what do you think of it? He said he never heard of it. But I was reading through, I guess Vandy Baseball uses S2, and this one uses S2, and that one uses S2. And Joe Burrow had a great S2. And Brock Purdy had a great S2. And again, Jake Haener at Fresno State got a 93 according to Bob McGinn. Kentucky's Will Levis. 96 for Jake Haener, 93 for Will Levis, 84 for Jaron Hall of BYU. Clayton Thune at Houston got an 84, 79 for Anthony Richardson, and 46 for Hendon Hooker, and 18 for C.J. Stroud. Now, yesterday we played our little alarm sounder, and I think that some people were a little surprised by this, so I'm giving you a little bit of a warning here. But when I hear 18% on anything, I just think to myself, so here we are talking about Bryce Young, and he got an 18% according to Bob McGinn on the S2 test. Now, I think there are some of you out there that think, yes, this is great. that is good because now he'll fall in the draft and maybe our team can pick him. But if he's falling in the draft because this is a really, really bad S2 score, doesn't that mean that you don't want to take him? Quote, Stroud scored an 18, an executive said. That is like a red alert, red alert. You can't take that guy like that. Ian, go ahead and give it to me. This is what the executive is telling Bob McGinn. It's like a red alert. He said, this is an executive in the league. Quote, that is why I have Stroud as a bust. That in conjunction with the fact, name one Ohio State quarterback that's ever done it in the league. And the Ohio State quarterbacks do stink in the NFL. We don't need to argue that. You don't need to tell me that Troy Smith was good or, anything of Mike Tomczak. I mean, we're not doing that. Apparently, this is a big deal when it comes to the S2s. One NFC executive described the S2 as, quote, a great test. Said an AFC executive, quote, for quarterbacks, it's been pretty good. Another executive said S2 made inroads early in its existence, testing hitters for Major League Baseball. Then they started doing it in football, the executive said. If you get a high score as a quarterback, it's not saying you're going to be a great player. But if you get a low score, it's 100%. None of the quarterbacks that got a low score became good players. Quote, the benchmark is 80. 80 and above is good. Stroud was 18. It's incredibly terrible. He's going to be off of some teams' boards. He will not be picked by those teams. So C.J. Stroud's S2 was reportedly so bad that some teams are taking him off the board. This would not surprise me if the Houston Texans were a team that said, well, here's our rankings of quarterbacks. We have Bryce Young 1, we have C.J. Stroud 2, and then all of a sudden on the aptitude test or whatever it is, the acuity test or agility test or whatever kind of training this is, he got an 18. I mean, I don't think an 18 is good in anything. I don't think an 18 is good on a math test. I don't think an 18 is good in golf. I mean, you don't want to be 18 over. I don't think 18 is good in anything. I'm trying to think, is there a track thing where an 18-inch vertical is terrible? I mean, I truly do not think there is anything in society in which an 18 is good. So he got an 18. Now, on the other side of this, I don't really know anything about this test. This test could all be bull crap. I mean, they say Brock Purdy had a great score, but is that why Brock Purdy played well, or did Brock Purdy play well because he's got the best quarterback coach? He's got Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Jawan Jennings, George Kittle, and Christian McCaffrey, as well as the best left tackle in the NFL and a $15 million right tackle. Was it his S2 score, or was it the fact that they were designing plays to get Deebo Samuel wide open to run with the football? I can't imagine Jimmy's S2 was the best or whatever it may be. So, I mean, I'm just looking at this right now. People are telling me, well, this S2, what do you make of it? And I'm telling you, I don't know, because I don't know this test. So if this test is a true test of quarterback vitality and he got an 18% on it, do you really want to draft him? I mean, we have the other red flags too. Is he coachable? We don't know. Mike Lombardi said not coachable. Did he blow off the Mannings? By the way, I love this. Ryan Clark is, who cares? Why should he have to acquiesce to the Mannings? Why should he? Because being self-aware is important when you're a quarterback in the NFL. Treating people who have earned respect with respect, and I believe the Mannings have earned respect, and the Manning Passing Academy is very respected. Treating those things without respect is a red flag. So we have that. We have the coachability. We knew his S2 score wasn't great. But to hear that it was an 18, they say 80 is the benchmark for good. Again, according to that Bob McGinn article at golongtd.com, where I'm a subscriber you can subscribe to. 80 is good. Anthony Richardson scored 79. That's the kind of discussion that I'd be having here is, well, he got a 79. Is 79 any good? I don't know. They say 80's good. 79 is 1 point less than 80. We keep making exceptions. Oh, no, that's fine. It's close enough. Then all of a sudden, everything becomes an exception. But 18 is not close to 80. So, what does that mean? Do you guys look at this the way you look at all the other things we tell you about quarterbacks? We tell you anything good about Anthony Richardson, and all you guys ever say is, oh, no, he was terrible at Florida. We don't want him, Jared. I'm like, well, this Hall of Fame general manager said, no, I don't care about that. Are you that way with C.J. Stroud? That is, I don't care what that test says. I saw him play at Ohio State, and I want to take him. Or in that case, the test means absolutely nothing to you. Bryce Young scored great on the test. Will Levis scored great on the test. By the way, does that change your opinion of Will Levis at all? That he scored very well on this S2 test. Anthony Richardson scored okay, or at least close to good, according to that evaluator. Again, I don't know anything about this test. Joe took the test, and he was talking about how it basically tests your ability to make decisions on the fly and process information and things like that. And I asked Joe what score he got, and he said he didn't know what score he got. And I'm like, why would you take the test if you don't know what score you got? But I guess he took the test. I mean, I don't know if it's hard or not. I said this today on Robby and Joe. I think I have the aptitude to play quarterback in the NFL. I don't think I have the size. I don't think I have the weight. I don't think I have the speed. I don't think I have the accuracy. I don't think I have the arm strength. I don't think I have any of that. The agility, the experience. But I think I could be smart enough to play quarterback in the NFL. That I could learn it, and I could learn the plays, and I could learn what you're supposed to do, and I could learn those things. I think I could do it. Now, there's a lot of people in the world that think that they can be talk show hosts, and they're not good at it. So maybe, I couldn't. But I do think that I have the aptitude there. I don't know how I'd score on this test. But an 18 is alarmingly bad. And if it's true, if it is as binary as that one executive said to Bob McGinn, nobody who has ever scored poorly on this test has been a good football player, then I am telling you right now that drafting C.J. Stroud, if that is true, drafting C.J. Stroud would be like lighting that pick on fire. So now how do you feel? 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. We will get to your phones today early and often, but coming up next, the C.J. Stroud stuff, it just doesn't add up for me. And I'm sure it adds up for some of you, but it does not add up. Just something is not right about all of this C.J. Stroud noise and all these red flags. And so I have formed a conspiracy theory that I think might actually be true. We followed the clues. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company, Fireball Hot Take Friday, 102.5, 106 through the game.
We are your home for every big pass.
Kevin Harvick takes over the race lead.
Big wreck.
Trouble turn 2. One car is around and hard into the outside wall.
And big win.
Ricky Stenhouse Jr. has won the Daytona 500.
Yeah! Woo!
Catch every lap of NASCAR on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
There's never a good time for your furnace to go out, especially in the winter. But it's always a good time to call Lee Company. Our heating and air conditioning pros are available 24/7. No heat? Don't wait. Call Lee Company now at 615-567-1000. Our expert technicians will diagnose the issue and fix it right the first time. When you're cold, you need someone you can count on to bring the heat. Call Lee Company now at 615-567-1000 or visit leecompany.com.
What if you could be credit card debt-free in 10 days and save as much as $1,000 a month? Loan Pronto's all-new Express Equity Line of Credit program is just what you need. Willie Donick here. You don't have to do a full home refi. You can tap a small portion of the equity you have and enjoy a super low monthly payment. With Loan Pronto's Express Equity Credit Line, you can close in 7 to 10 days, and a $50,000 loan would only cost you around $400 a month. Use that money to pay off high-interest credit cards or do a home improvement. You can access up to 90% of your home's equity, and 9 out of 10 homeowners won't even need an appraisal. Even if you did a total refi recently or just bought your home, you can tap the equity with this fast, easy program. Stop the madness and say no to 24% interest fees. Call Loan Pronto today. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
Hey, it's John Tesh. You know why insurance companies use all those cute and funny characters? To distract you from realizing you're only getting one option. If you want to compare prices, you're forced to visit multiple websites just to get one quote at a time. But not with Zander Insurance, because they work for you. Zander is a broker that shops dozens of top companies to find the best competitive rates for the coverage you need, and they keep reviewing your policy every year to make sure you're getting the best value. They're always available to answer questions, handle problems, and make sure that when it comes to insurance, your life is simple and hassle-free. You even have direct access to their senior management team. If your current company or agent doesn't do this much for you, let Zander Insurance help. Compare rates online at Zander.com or call 800-356-1780 for that personal touch. When Zander works for you, you're going to see the difference. Again, that's 800-356-1780, or you can visit Zander.com with no characters needed.
More than 80 million Americans depend on AM radio for their news, traffic, weather, sports, and a community connection. It's the backbone of the emergency alert system, keeping us safe in dangerous times. It's critical that we keep AM radio in cars, because when cell and internet services are down, this free emergency service could be your only lifeline. Text AM to 52886 and tell Congress we need AM radio in cars. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Anyone want to tell me what happened? Did you miss any of today's show?
It's okay. It's fine. Don't worry.
Subscribe to the Stillman and Company podcast on Apple, Spotify, and other podcast platforms, or by going to theGameNashville.com.
All right, I'll give it a shot.
You're listening to Stillman and Company, presented by TriStar Moving on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
I know that the rumors around the league, the rumors that I have heard, is that C.J. Stroud did not score great on this S2. There are a lot of teams who highly value the S2 test because it's a processing test, it's a decision-making. So it has been predictive. The very best quarterbacks, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, those are three guys who scored very high on S2. Brock Purdy was the highest scorer last year.
Okay, that was Lance Zierlein, NFL, on his local show in Houston, NFL.com draft analyst, and the rumors he was hearing, bad S2 score for C.J. Stroud. Bob McGinn, long time covering the Packers, long time covering the NFL, golongtd.com. He says an 18%, 18 on the S2 cognitive test. And I thought to myself, there's no way that that's true. There's no way that this guy that played as well as he played against the Georgia Bulldogs and had the college career that he had got an 18. And then I started to think about the slippage. And then I started to think about, wait a minute. Wasn't C.J. Stroud, like after his pro day workout, didn't everybody say that he was neck and neck with Bryce Young? I mean, isn't that? And finally, I heard Todd McShay talking about Mike Vrabel and C.J. Stroud and an interaction he witnessed, not what he was told, what he witnessed. And it made me think, oh my God, what if? So this is my, without further ado, the official C.J. Stroud Tennessee Titans conspiracy theory. Okay, so here is my Tennessee Titans C.J. Stroud conspiracy theory. Let's start by going all the way back to the Combine. TD was on our show, and we asked TD, what are you hearing at the Combine? And TD said that this was what he was hearing about the Titans at the Combine.
I do know that C.J. Stroud is a guy that they really like.
I'm just not sure if they'll be able to pull the trigger to move up to get him.
Okay. So we've now established that at the Combine, C.J. Stroud was the Titans guy. That the Titans liked him, but, man, that would be really expensive to get up to 3. And a lot of people said, okay, Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud at 1, but who knows after that. And then at that Combine, C.J. Stroud had an unbelievable workout. So all the talk of Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, that was gone with the workout, the passing workout that C.J. Stroud had. This was former NFL general manager Rick Spielman on his assessment of C.J. Stroud's workout and just how impressive it was.
I thought C.J. Stroud had the best throwing quarterback position drill and throwing to those receivers that I've seen in a long time. I mean, he really stood out with his technique, his feet, and everything was in sync when he was doing a lot of the 3-5-step drops that they have him do. I'm going to have him up there right now, moving him up a nudge right at Bryce Young category, and made him my 1B quarterback coming out of this weekend.
So at that point, we stopped discussing the idea of the Titans being able to acquire C.J. Stroud, because now the talk was that passing workout was so good combined with his size compared to Bryce Young's that they're going to go 1-2 and it's over anyways. So there's no point in talking. And the Titans can't trade up to 2 with Houston, so it's over. So we talked about TD saying C.J. Stroud was their guy for 1 day. Then the Titans sent everybody to the Ohio State Pro Day. Tim Kelly went to the Pro Day. Mike Vrabel went to the Pro Day. Rand Carthon went to the Pro Day. I believe the Titans sent 7 people to the Pro Day. I know the offensive line coach was one of them, so that's 4. I don't know if Charles London went, and I don't know if any members of ownership went. But we know that there are 3 members of the coaching staff or of the Titans delegation who made the trek to the Ohio State Pro Day, and we don't know who they are. And Todd McShay observed the relationship between Mike Vrabel and C.J. Stroud at that Pro Day.
I was standing there with Stroud at the Pro Day, and Vrabel came over and said, "Hey, go take a shower and let's meet in the wide receiver room." And there's a relationship there. And obviously, with Vrabel and his background at Ohio State, that doesn't mean that they're going to take him or want to move up for him. I'm just saying, there is a relationship there.
Okay, so now we know that C.J. Stroud is the number 2 quarterback in the class, or even number 1. There was all the talk at that Pro Day. Remember, Carolina sent everybody. Carolina sent the owner. Carolina sent them all. And so Vrabel has a private meeting with C.J. Stroud at the Pro Day. I think at that meeting, Mike Vrabel sat down and said, look, you don't want to go to Carolina. That organization is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, and Frank Reich is not that good of a coach. You don't want to go to Houston. That owner is also cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And I know, I'm just going to tell you that I know this. Nick Caserio, there were some in New England that didn't think Nick Caserio was all that bright. Now, I don't know if that's what Vrabel thinks or what J-Rob thought and told Vrabel or whatever, but I know that. So you don't want to go there. You don't want to go to the Raiders because that guy's a kook and McDaniel stinks as a coach. You want to be on my team. So we've got to figure out. We can't trade to 3. So we've got to figure out how you'll fall in this draft. And it might cost you a couple of $1 million on the front end, but you'll develop into such a good quarterback that you'll make so much money it won't even matter. But you want to be on our team. And Vrabel's coach, Ryan Day, a Vrabel friend, maybe helps back that up. Maybe Stroud buys into that a little bit. So then let's kind of go after the Pro Day. This was Diana Rossini yesterday saying, and I believe that this is straight from Vrabel, and I think Vrabel gives Diana a little bit because he's trying to see what else Diana knows about the other teams in the draft. How are the Raiders feeling about the quarterback he likes? How do the Colts feel about the quarterback he likes? What about the Texans? So on and so forth. And this is what Diana said.
I don't get the sense that the Tennessee Titans would be willing to move all the way up to 3 for a quarterback, but I know that they are in the business of perhaps getting one.
Okay, so the Titans are interested in quarterback, but they can't move up to 3. Now, Dane Brugler on Robby and Rex showed yesterday said he knows for a fact that the Titans have been calling everybody saying what it would take to move up.
The Titans have made calls to teams picking between 2 and 6. And I know that's not a smokescreen because I've heard it from multiple teams.
So they know it's too rich to trade up to number 3. But what about 5? What about 6 with Detroit? What about 8 with Atlanta? Arthur Smith, good trade buddy. What about that? So we'll call everybody to see what it is. Then, because, again, I think that C.J. Stroud is in on the tank. I think he tanks the S2 test. I think he tanks it because now he realized, how do you get an 18 on that test? And again, I don't know anything about the test. I don't know how the grading scale. How do you get an 18? Right? Like, again, I don't know C.J. Stroud. He might be stupid. He might not be able to process things quickly. I don't know. But how do you get an 18? So I think he tanks the test, just like players try to tank the concussion test when they take the baseline so that if they get a concussion, then they can come back faster because they've already tanked the test to begin with. So I think C.J. Stroud, now that the tank is on, I think C.J. Stroud tanks the S2 test. Now, how do you get the other teams that might like C.J. Stroud not to be interested? He has to go on those visits, and he has to piss them off. So let's start with the Texans, because John McClain last week on Hot Mic with Chad and Hutton, he was asked about, okay, well, if Bryce Young goes number 1, where's the Texans going to go? Here's what John McClain said last week.
If Bryce Young goes number 1, what will the Texans do?
C.J. Stroud.
So last week, it was a foregone conclusion that was going to be C.J. Stroud. Now, this week, after the visits, after the S2 test, John McClain was asked about it, and here's what he said.
I think it's been out there for a while that they've soured on C.J. Stroud at number 2.
So now they've soured on C.J. Stroud. What about the Raiders, another team that's going to be in the mix here for a quarterback? And we've heard that they only wanted Stroud or Young. Well, he visits the Raiders, or he gets to know the Raiders, and all of a sudden, the father of the offensive coordinator, Mike Lombardi, comes out and says, yeah, he's not very coachable.
When you talk to people in the league, they'll tell you C.J. Stroud is not. This is not a knock. This is just a conversation. Not an easy guy to coach. Kind of. Okay. You got to be really. He's very. I think the word that people use is he's very not believing in what you're saying, and so he's a little bit challenging to coach. So it's not like he comes in and embraces it. It's a little bit. He's got a little bit different style to him.
Is that where it's like he thinks he knows better?
He thinks he knows a little bit better. Okay. He's probably hard to take to coach it. Not saying he's not a good player. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying the vibe that you get from talking to people that have interviewed him is he's not an easy guy to coach. And so what I've done is I've asked people. I said, I've heard C.J. Stroud's not an easy guy to coach. Yeah, and everybody echoes that back to you.
I mean, Lombardi's got tons of sources in the league because he was there for a while, but I don't think anyone's closer to the situation than his kid. So I think what happened is Vrabel realized that he could not get C.J. Stroud unless C.J. Stroud was in on the tank. And I think for whatever reason, and Vrabel can be very convincing, I think that Mike Vrabel has leveraged his relationship with Ryan Day and Ohio State and C.J. Stroud in order to get C.J. Stroud to be in on the tank, to fall to the Titans, an organization that Vrabel can convince them is more well-rounded than the other organizations and more conducive to his success. And that is the C.J. Stroud, Jared Stillman, Tennessee Titans conspiracy theory. Okay. Ian, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being Sidney Powell, what level of a conspiracy theory did you think that was?
7?
I don't even think, I think that might have, again, I'm not going to say that I'd bet my house that that's what happened, but where was all this C.J. Stroud's not coachable in March and early April? Where was all this C.J. Stroud? 18.
I don't know what that test is like, so I don't know how you do well and how you do poorly.
I mean, I have to believe that when I was in the 5th grade at USN, I could have gotten better than an 18. And I'm with you. I don't know what this test is like, but it's got to be better than 18.
I mean, that's pretty low.
I think what's happened is I think that, one of these spots at 5, 6, 8 Vrabel thinks we can get to that. We'll be willing to trade the picks to get to 8, but we can't trade the picks to get to 3. So they need Stroud to play along. And that's my conspiracy theory on a Fireball Hot Take Friday. 615-737-1025. Remember, it is lying season. Now, I'm not lying about that conspiracy right there, but it is lying season. And there is one former general manager that does not buy what everybody else is A, reporting, and B, believing. We'll get to that next on a Fireball Hot Take Friday. 615-737-1025 is our phone number if you want to weigh in. That's 615-737-1025, and I do see your phone, so we will get to those. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Hey, I'm Ryan Johansson, and this is Smashville.
Back to Johansson, and Johansson tips it in with one hand on the stick.
You're listening to the flagship of the Nashville Predators radio network, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Last year, Jerry was all like, hey, I'm going to go to the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix this year. Then he didn't. Instead, he decided to weed his garden. And he missed an August weekend of IndyCar racing, super truck racing, even night racing, all through downtown Nashville. Sure, old Jer had a lot of weeds to pull, but Jerry also totally sucks. Hey, don't suck like Jerry. Get your tickets at MusicCityGP.com for August 4th through 6th. The Big Machine Music City Grand Prix. Get amped.
Genesis Diamonds' once-a-year spring store-wide sale is here this weekend. 3 days of phenomenal savings across the board. You save up to 35% off Genesis already guaranteed best prices. Rings, earrings, bracelets, bands, and more. Plus special financing. You can even trade in your old jewelry for some amazing new designs from our world-class designers who flew in just for this. Extra savings on GIA-certified diamonds as well as lab-grown diamonds. It's our biggest sale all year. This Friday through Sunday only. And only at Genesis Diamonds and luxury pre-owned Rolex. Green Hills and Cool Springs. See store for details.
Do you take pride in your work? Do you want to help build Nashville? You need to join Ironworkers Local 492. They build Nashville, working on everything from steel erection on buildings and bridges, plant maintenance, concrete, reinforcing, conveyor work, sheeting, welding, rigging, fence erecting, curtain wall, window wall, and a variety of other specialty work. They provide the best skilled iron workers for contractors and projects in Nashville. If you want to build Nashville, you want to be proud of doing it, visit ironworkers492.org. Join Ironworkers Local 492.
It's time for another Kubota field event at Coleman Tractor of White House. Their biggest sale event of the year will take place in White House on Saturday, April 22nd. Don't miss this perfect opportunity to demo Kubota tractors, zero-turn mowers, and more. Take advantage of Kubota's competitive financing offers. Receive a coupon for up to $250 off select purchases. Plus, enter to win prizes and free barbecue lunch from 11 to 1. Try it and buy it during the Kubota field event Saturday, April 22nd from 9 to 2 p.m. at Coleman Tractor of White House at 3613 Highway 31 West.
This is Erykah Badu. Come take a journey with me on a trip of a lifetime.
It's the summer concert experience of a lifetime. It's the Unfollow Me Tour with Erykah Badu. Erykah Badu with Yasin Bey.
July 18th in Bridgestone Arena. Tickets on sale now. Available at Ticketmaster.com.
Sunday night.
He drives one, deep left field. That goes Wade near the wall, and it's out of here.
Yeah, on the ground. Benaya, that's one. And a pair. It's a battle between the Mets and Giants on Sunday Night Baseball. Coverage begins at 6 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey Nashville, it's Max Kellerman, and you're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
There's a lot of speculation that CJ Stroud is not going to be the pick at number 2. I was standing there with Stroud at the pro day, and Vrabel came over and said, "Hey, go take a shower and let's meet in the wide receiver room." And there's a relationship there, and obviously, with Vrabel and his background in Ohio State, that doesn't mean that they're going to take him or want to move up for him. I'm just saying, there is a relationship there.
There you go. That was Todd McShay. Part of the conspiracy that we have had out there. TD texted me and said, you cannot be serious with that conspiracy theory. And I was like, I said it was a conspiracy. It's not like I said, hey, this is what for sure happened. I just said, it's starting to add up. Last week, John McClain, and here's where John McClain, and I don't know this for a fact, but I'm pretty sure about this. John McClain gets his information from ownership. Like, John McClain knows the owner of the Texans pretty well. And so I'm guessing that, he probably talks, who are you going to pick? And so last week he said C.J. Stroud unequivocally. This week he said they soured on C.J. Stroud. I do think there's some kind of tank job or something going on here. And remember, C.J. Stroud's agent, David Mulligetta, was Deshaun Watson's agent. Maybe you don't want to deal with the Texans. I don't know. But a lot of people are thinking that there's no chance anymore that C.J. Stroud's going with the number 2 overall pick. After a month and a half of there's no doubt C.J. Stroud is going number 2, now we're all told it's not going to happen. Adam Schefter started it, and then everybody else has kind of heard the same thing. Former NFL general manager Rick Spielman was asked on his podcast about you buying this rumor. Here's what Rick Spielman said.
I'm selling that rumor.
You have to take a quarterback. You said that before, right? If you
Yeah. How can you not take a quarterback? There's only opportunity. Hopefully you're not picking 1 or 2 again next year. You may not be there. D'Amico will be there, but the GM may not be there.
Yeah.
So you better take a shot at your guy when you have an opportunity.
And so all I will say is we can't sit here and say that it's lying season, which we've said for the last 2 weeks. We can't say it's lying season, it's lying season, it's lying season. Then we have this massive rumor that started at the beginning of the week. Everybody said, whoa, that's a bomb. And now we all believe it. Right? Like, we can't just say over and over and over again, it's lying season, it's lying season, it's lying season, and then not think there's a really good chance we're getting lied to. And Rick Spielman, man, I said this 2 days ago, before John McClain said that they'd soured on C.J. Stroud, before it was more than just Adam Schefter's conjecture that he thought that a quarterback wasn't going to go with the second pick. And I said there's no way the Houston Texans are going to pass on C.J. Stroud. There's no way. They don't have a quarterback. They've been bad for years. So if you're the general manager and you keep losing and you don't have a quarterback, so there's no end in sight, you're probably going to get fired. I mean, the whole point of stinking to get good picks is so that you can draft good quarterbacks. Like, that's the point. And so they didn't know that he wasn't going to have Deshaun, and so they had to deal with that. So now you have your chance to get your Deshaun replacement. And you've got all these other picks. You have Cleveland's first this year. You have their first next year. Blah, blah, blah. And you're going to pass on it for Will Anderson? And I said this to TD yesterday. I don't watch, the college film like everybody else does. I'm certainly not a guru. But Will Anderson, to me, did not dominate in the Alabama games that I watched. He didn't dominate in that Texas game. He didn't dominate in that Tennessee game. He didn't dominate. We talk about all these games that Bryce Young lost against Tennessee and LSU, where they lost on the last play of the game. Their defense couldn't get a stop. And if you're the best pass rusher, if you're one of the Bosa brothers, you make an impact in college. That's why I think there's a chance Tyree Wilson's going to be a better player. So I'm going to pass up C.J. Stroud? Who's going to be your quarterback? So I do think that Rick Spielman may be onto something, and that on Thursday, with the second pick, the Houston Texans will take C.J. Stroud, and we will say, oh, yeah, that was lying season at its finest. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. 615-737-1025. Craig asks a very good question on this Fireball Hot Take Friday about the C.J. Stroud conspiracy theory. He says, Jared, if what you're saying is true and Mike Vrabel is getting C.J. Stroud to tank, is that tampering? I don't know. If C.J. Stroud were on the Cincinnati Bengals and Vrabel told him, hey, don't go to practice, don't learn the playbook, don't this, don't that. If C.J. Stroud were on the Bengals, that would be tampering. But he's not on another team. I mean, I'm sure there are rules in place that tell teams that you're not allowed to try to discourage players in the draft from wanting to go to certain places, but you know that those rules are never followed. Like, again, this conspiracy theory, it may be totally bonkers. Of the C.J. Stroud, Mike Vrabel in it together to tank so that he can fall to 6 or he can fall to 8, and the Titans can make a trade and get him. Might be just completely bonkers. That's why I said it's a conspiracy theory. But stuff like this, I'm sure, happens all the time. Now, maybe I'm like one of these people that, says, well, this happens all the time, and then has no proof to back it up. Like there's no example of saying, well, yeah, and then in 1997 when they did the XYZ. Like, I don't know. Ryan Leaf tells people that he didn't want to go to the Colts, so he was bad in a meeting or blew off a meeting that he had with Indianapolis. And I heard Bill Polian tell the 33rd team that when Peyton had a meeting with the Colts, Peyton told him, if you draft me, I'll be in the day after the draft. And Polian said, well, you can't come in the day after the draft. Yeah, it's got to be like 3 or 4 days later. You can't come in the day after the draft. Peyton said, well, you figure it out. I'll be there the day after the draft. And that then they asked Ryan Leaf, hey, when would you come in if we draft you number 1? And Ryan Leaf was like, well, I'm going on a trip, so I have to be maybe a week or so after the draft because I'm going on vacation to Vegas. And I heard that, and I remember that Ryan Leaf said that he was trying to tank his draft stock. He didn't want to play for the Colts. He wanted to go number 2. And so maybe that's why Ryan Leaf said what he said. Maybe Ryan Leaf said what he said because he's incredibly irresponsible, and Peyton Manning at that point in their lives was much more responsible. But I do think some of that happens. Now, again, is it tampering? That I wouldn't know. Maddie says, I freaking love it, man. Great detective work. Don't forget the Titans didn't bring him in on a top 30 visit. Why waste it when the Titans already had the conversation? I also think, why waste, instead of the top 30 visit, why put people onto the scent? Because if they had said the Titans are at 11, and if they had brought in C.J. Stroud for a visit, everybody was like, you're bringing in C.J. Stroud for a visit? You pick at 11. What are you going to go up to 3? But they don't want to go up to 3. So right now, we all think they might be interested in Richardson. We all think they might be interested in Levis. We all think they might be interested in Hooker. And they brought them in. But this would throw us off to the scent. What if you're the Raiders and you're thinking about this? You're at 7. Houston doesn't like C.J. Stroud anymore. Probably because he scored an 18 reportedly on the S2 test. Indianapolis reportedly likes Will Levis. And my guess is that 18 might be scaring them too. Do you trade up and take him? But when he came on your visit, he wasn't coachable. But was he just doing that because he's trying to get to a team he'd rather go to? I don't know. I still can't get over TD texting me saying I can't be serious. I mean, serious is a strong word here. I said it's like a wild hypothesis about, could Vrabel have said, hey, man, if you can find your way to 6, we'll move up and take you. And you'd rather come here than go to Mark Davis or Jim Irsay or Cal McNair or any of those other bozos.
How much money? It's not that much different, the slots and the rookie pay scale.
I mean, don't you think that and
how much? I don't know how much. Yeah, but
don't you think it would be kind of like the same of, well, this place has a state income tax and this place does not have a state income tax and that place, and we never do that, right? We never sit there and say, well, the Predators signed this guy, and had he signed at Calgary, the tax rate would have been yada yada yada. We don't ever do that. I'm guessing it's kind of the same. I mean, I would rather go to a stable organization. I think Anthony Richardson would be perfect for the Colts. But I think the Colts would screw him up because Jim Irsay would demand that they put him out on the field before he's ready. So, I mean, I like it, but we'll see. 615-737-1025 is our phone number if you want to weigh in. 615-737-1025. Speaking of the cognitive test, there's one, and I don't know a lot about this test, but there's one quarterback that, did he check the box? We'll get to that coming up next here on Stillman and Company, 615-737-1025. Fireball Hot Take Friday. Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Those are my guys. Hiller has taken care of my home for years. They can do the same for you. I literally never hesitate to call Hiller for really anything. Sometimes replacing equipment in your home can be overlooked until something breaks. But there's actually big problems that can come from outdated old vintage HVAC systems. Older systems have higher repair costs, require more maintenance, and can result in higher utility bills. And even worse, they can break down when you need them the most. This month during Hiller's Vintage Showdown, they're giving away a free HVAC system to the owner of the oldest unit. It's easy to enter. Just go online to happyhiller.com and submit a picture of your old unit. Plus, everybody wins with trade-in credits and 0% interest financing for up to 48 months on replacements. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. My guys, proud supporters of the Preds, the Vols, and Vandy. Hiller, call the Happy Face Truck today.
He knows the ins and outs of the Titans and isn't afraid to give his opinion.
Traylon Burks needs a massive offseason.
He's Jonathan Hutton of Outkick.
I don't see how they make a move without going to Ryan Tannehill.
Catch him every Monday at 10:30 on Chase and Michelle, and every Wednesday at noon on Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace. Brought to you by Blend Bar with Davidoff Cigars. Hutton is on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
This is for the men who never settle, the ones who believe only quitters end a game in a tie, the type of guys who choose the bar with the biggest TVs to overcompensate for theirs at home. This is the Lodge mentality. This is Twin Peaks.
Are you a fan of Twin Peaks? Sign up for the Twin Peaks E-Club and stay up to date on all things Twin Peaks. As a friend of the Peaks Club, you'll score free stuff and be updated on upcoming events and promotions. Visit TwinPeaksRestaurant.com and sign up today.
Cards issued by Sutton Bank and Celtic Bank, members FDIC. Terms and conditions apply.
What if you could do business without busy work? With Ramp, you can. Ramp is the future of finance with smart automation, corporate cards, and spend management. Just imagine, no more expense reports or shuffling wrinkled receipts. No more slogging through invoices or getting surprised by unexpected charges. Just your business's big idea with smart spend controls, automation that crushes busy work, and real-time insights so you can make it happen. In other words, Ramp completely reimagined finance to make it work for your business. Get set up, issue corporate cards, and start making payments in less than 15 minutes. See how Ramp does finance. Join today and get $250 just for signing up. Just go to ramp.com/sports. That's ramp.com/sports to get $250 for signing up. That's ramp.com/sports.
They combine hard-hitting journalism.
Titans have actually made a move, finalizing a one-year deal.
Strong-willed opinions.
No, I disagree. No, I totally disagree with that.
And sometimes, some old man takes...
Don't want those cooked carrots that are 5 days old.
To create the perfect morning show, they are Robby and Rex Road.
The job starts in the morning.
Mornings from 6 to 9 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Strong opinions and a strong personality on your drive home. This is Stillman and Company, presented by TriStar Moving on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
If I was Houston, I would take Anthony Richardson out of Florida. Two reasons why. Number one, I think the accuracy concerns or narrative around him are incorrect. I've pointed out that 106 teams in college football caught the football better than Florida last year. They were I can go to the Missouri game. There's 3 passes in that game for 40-plus yards that get dropped. So if you took a throwaway, which he had 19 of them last season, and 1 drop per game, 52% completion percentage goes to 63, and now no one has anything to conversate about. Number 2, 13 games started. And I understand that. But the reality is this. Athletic quarterbacks that are used in quarterback run, they are allowed to simplify defenses. I look at the physical talent. I go big, fast, strong, athletic, loose upper body, powerful arm, plenty accurate, highly intelligent, very good work ethic, and great character. How does the young man fail?
There you go. That was Dan Orlovsky on ESPN talking about Anthony Richardson. Now, you know I love Anthony Richardson. And I would not mind the Titans drafting him. Now, we talked a lot about this S2 cognitive test. Bob McGinn has the scores. What was it for Bryce Young? 98?
Correct.
98 for Bryce Young, 18 for C.J. Stroud. According to this, an executive in the league says the benchmark is 80. 80 and above is good, which takes us to Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson got a 79. So if 80 is good, is 79 good enough? And I don't know the answer because I don't know really a whole lot about this test. And the one thing I'd say is, like, in life, and I'm not one of these guys that drives the speed limit exactly, go a couple miles an hour above or below, whatever. But at the same time, if we say 79 is good enough, then the next guy will come in at 78. Then the next guy will come in at 77. Then the next guy will come in at 76. And then we'll say, well, 77 was good enough, so 76 is good enough. So he's 79. 80 is supposedly good. Is the 79 on Richardson good enough if you care about the S2 test? Michael is up next on CJ Stroud. Thank you for waiting patiently. What's up, Michael?
Hey, thanks for taking my call. What I don't really understand about this whole S2 test thing is, one, I've never heard of it before this year. I know they've done the Wonderlicks forever, and no one really talks about that because it's not really that big of a deal. But I don't know, what does this S2 test even comprise of, and why is it all of a sudden a huge story now because C.J. Stroud allegedly got such a low score on it?
Well, I think it's a big deal because, like that one executive said, thank you, Michael, like that one executive said, that scoring well on the S2 test does not mean that you're going to be a good football player, but scoring poorly on it does mean you're going to be a bad football player. And the other executive said that score of 18 for C.J. Stroud was so low that teams are going to take him off the board, that it's that bad. Teams are going to take him off the board. Now, to answer your question, what's it comprised of? So I read up on the S2 test a bunch. Basically, they're two, I honestly think they're neurologists, but I'm not sure, that went to Vandy, and the two of them, one of them worked with Alzheimer's, another one of them worked with Parkinson's. And so they obviously, know the brain and know how the brain reacts. And so they came up with this standardized test that processes your ability to process information and utilize the information in pressure settings. And it is a lot more dynamic and perhaps a lot more representative of what you would face in the NFL, right? So in the NFL, on Wednesday, you learn a play for first or second down. On Wednesday in the film room, after you practice, you go over the practice tape, and they give you different looks, and the coach will say, all right, if they drop the safety, then you want to throw it over the top. If the safety stays back, you want to drop it underneath, yada, yada, yada. Then they're going to give you a look, and you got to practice that. Then you have to remember all of that, and on Sunday, you have to be able to execute it perfectly. So you have to retain the information. You've got 40 seconds as a quarterback to process all the information. You have to know what every player on the field is supposed to do, both on offense and defense. You have to manage the clock. That was before Tony Romo decided to mail it in on TV. I thought that was one of the really exciting things about listening to him call a game, was the fact that in a 2-minute drill, not only was he predicting the plays, where he'd say, okay, it's man-to-man across the board, Jim. If Gronk is single covered, Brady's going to throw it up here. If not, he's going to throw it down here to Edelman. And he'd be right, but it was also the managing of the time. You'd hear Tony Romo doing a game, and he'd be like, they've got 17 seconds. They can run 2 more plays. They have to get the second one. Like, he would be thinking about that because that's what he would do when he was quarterback. Those are the things that he would be thinking about. Now Romo just mails it in, and he doesn't know if it's Monday or Tuesday anymore calling the games. But that was what used to be so exciting for me. You got to process all of that at one time. And everybody's counting on you. And so this test is supposed to be more representative of that, other than if I went to the grocery store at 3:20 and I needed to have 10 apples and I left the grocery store. I know that kind of thing because that's what the Wonderlick test was. And I know that because I played the football video game when I was a kid, and they let you take the Wonderlick test. Texter into the text line, talking about the S2 test, says it's about cognition and the ability to recall information. Texter said, boy, are you on some other planet with your hypothesis. Maybe you were brainwashed. Maybe C.J. Stroud was brainwashed. Who knows? Let me just say this. And I'm not one of these people that doesn't believe in obvious things like the moon landing, that says, like, there's no way that happened. I'm not that kind of person. But the one thing I would say is when it comes to the NFL draft, if you think everybody's on the up and up, and you think everything that is being reported is the truth, and you think everything that you think you know is real, come on now. It's like in the same Bob McGinn article, a bunch of scouts were kind of knocking the quarterback class, saying that it wasn't a very good class. And I was listening to the Midday Show talk about this, about, well, maybe this isn't a good class because these scouts are all saying it's not a good class. And I'm thinking, where was that last year? Because last year we thought 3 quarterbacks might go in round 1, maybe 4 quarterbacks, or, late round 1, early 2. And then 1 quarterback went in round 1. No quarterbacks went in round 2. And there weren't these epic takedowns of the quarterback class, but it was because nobody was trying to get that information out there because nobody wanted those quarterbacks. So, hey, if you thought it was a good class, go ahead and take one. I don't care. These guys stink. So that's kind of, this time of the year, we have to remember that. Now, taking it as far as I did, maybe there's some holes in it, but that's why it's a conspiracy theory. Are we not allowed to have those, especially if we highlight them? It's one thing just to say, this is what's happening, and the evidence is clear. And I did not say that, even though I'm sure somebody will take it out of context, as much as I've tried to highlight it and put an asterisk with it and so on and so forth. Somebody says, how much money does C.J. Stroud lose with each pick he drops? I don't know. I don't really care about that. We can talk about this all we want about, the first pick. There's definitely a difference between pick 1 and pick 60. But is there really that much of a difference between pick 6 and pick 9? And we can all agree C.J. Stroud. That Georgia game alone, C.J. Stroud's not going to fall out of the top 10. I don't care if he got a 2% on the cognitive test. I don't care if he can't read. After that Georgia game, he's not going to fall out of the top 10. 615-737-1025 is the phone number, 615-737-1025. All of the reporting out of ESPN is either the truth and everybody is just, right now everybody knows, or it is a complete fabrication heading into the draft. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company here on a Fireball Hot Take Friday. Tune into the best draft coverage. That's right here, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, for the first 3 rounds on Thursday of next week, April 27th, and Friday, 1 week from today, April 28th. Coverage is presented by Parman Tractor and Equipment, the new Cumberland.com, Smoky Mountain Tops, Parman Energy, and B&B Flooring. And be sure to join us on Thursday, where we'll be live at Twin Peaks in Cool Springs for the first round. It'll be me, Derek Mason, Chris Sanders, home of the 29-degree drafts, right here on Thursday, April 27th on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
All the big plays.
Tannehill, entering right up the middle, touchdown, Tennessee.
All the big stories.
The Titans' window to contend is however long Derrick Henry stays Derrick Henry.
All in one place. We are Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3.
Gets it back and scores.
Execution was good.
They have not found their groove.
It's always great to win in this league. It's tough to win.
The Game and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Al Gill here from my friends at Dunkin'. Warm up and feel the love with Dunkin'. Treat yourself and a loved one to a brown butter toffee hot or iced latte, which is superb paired with the bacon avocado tomato sandwich. Be sure to try the all-new stuffed biscuit bites. It's a warm biscuit dough wrapped around a mixture of bacon, scrambled egg, and cheddar cheese. Visit us at our newly remodeled Dunkin' on Briley Parkway in Nashville, or the new Dunkin' in Mount Juliet, and our other locations throughout Middle Tennessee. Price and participation may vary. Limited time offer. Terms apply.
AM radio provides always-on news, sports, talk, traffic, and weather reports. And it's also a vital service that provides important emergency information when your community needs it most. Tell Congress you need AM radio to stay in your car. Because when cell phones and the internet are down, this free emergency service is critical. And when you don't have electricity, radio in the car is often your only lifeline. Text AM to 52886 and tell Congress we need AM radio in cars. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Hi, this is Jamie from Souls for Souls. I hope you can join us on June 7th at Hermitage Golf Course for the second annual Music City Celebrity Golf Tournament. We've partnered with 102.5 The Game to provide shoes to students experiencing homelessness right here in Nashville. Go to thegamenashville.com for more information and to register.
Now, your Game Center update.
Brought to you by the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. The NFL draft news and rumors are coming out hot and heavy as we are less than 1 week away from the start of the first round. The latest news involves Ohio State quarterback C.J. Stroud. According to NFL reporter Bob McGinn, Stroud tested in the 18th percentile on the S2 cognitive testing, which would potentially take him off the draft board completely for some teams. In some other NFL news, 5 players have been suspended for violating the league's gambling policy. Among the players facing discipline is former Alabama wide receiver Jameson Williams. Williams will be suspended for 6 games. The NBA playoffs continue tonight. The series is tied 1-1 between the New York Knicks and the Cleveland Cavaliers. We will have ESPN radio coverage of Game 3 beginning at 7 right here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. And the Nashville Sounds are once again in Jacksonville tonight to take on the Jumbo Shrimp. Coverage begins at 5:50 on your home of the Sounds, 94.9 The Fan. This update is brought to you by the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. I'm Ian Safar for 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
For more, follow us on Twitter at 1025 The Game or visit thegamenashville.com. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne. Nashville's exclusive home for the Nashville Predators. 102.5 and 106.3.
Score by Matt Duchene.
A gutty performance. Do your job.
And the Tigers regain the lead.
The Game.
A Cromwell media station.
Where you have a voice.
He had a competent coaching staff. You just play terrible and you keep playing.
And we have strong opinions.
What a whiny freaking crybaby response.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman. Presented by TriStar Moving on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Thanks to Superbook Sports, live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. Fireball Hot Take Friday. So I was looking around, been waiting for a new show to watch, and we started watching this show on Netflix called The Night Agent. Ian, are you familiar with this show?
I am not. No.
So I'm thinking we're probably, 6 months behind. I'm sure everybody's like, oh, The Night Agent, that was so 8 months ago or whatever. But, streaming is kind of like that old NBC Must-See Thursdays during the summer when they air the reruns. If you haven't seen it, it's new to you.
We got to wait for a slower sports part of the calendar.
I know. But so we've been watching the show called The Night Agent. And it's about an FBI agent, and he doesn't know who to trust, and those kind of thrillers, right? Like the person that you're working with, are they working?
I like a good Bourne theory. Yeah, Bourne Identity kind of thing.
24, those Jack Ryan, they're kind of all the same. And in this, you don't know who to trust. And draft season, I think, is very similar to that concept with a lot lower stakes. So, national security is not on the line here. FBI agents' lives aren't on the line here. But again, the security aspect of it, the integrity aspect of it, the who got what from where, it's draft season. And there is one rumor that just keeps percolating outside of ESPN. And it might be true, or it might be a total smokescreen. The Indianapolis Colts have the 4th overall pick in the draft. And we figured that the Indianapolis Colts, the way it looked like 2 weeks ago, the draft was trending, Indianapolis was going to be stuck at number 4 with Will Levis. that even though a lot of people thought after what wasn't a great pro day and what was certainly not a good combine, a lot of people thought Levis was clearly number 4, that Young and Stroud were 1 and 2, Anthony Richardson was 3, with the potential to be up there, but he's not there yet, and Levis was 4. Now, the Bob McGinn report says that Will Levis scored, I believe, in the 94th percentile of the S2 test, which is significantly better than both Anthony Richardson, who scored a 79, and C.J. Stroud, who reportedly scored an 18. So maybe that pushed him up a little bit. I don't know. But all we keep hearing is Indy likes Will Levis. I want to say it was 3 or 4 weeks ago. We played a cut on a Sunday Sports Center from Jeremy Fowler, which said that the Colts like Will Levis. That's all we keep hearing. They like Will Levis. And then when we started to hear that C.J. Stroud might fall or, Richardson or Levis, and, the Colts, they're sticking at 4, and they want to take Will Levis. So you can take Anthony Richardson, and you can trade up with Arizona to get Anthony Richardson, but it doesn't matter to us because we're taking Will Levis. And I never believed that because why would you tell everybody? Why would everybody at ESPN know that you love Will Levis unless what you wanted them to think was that you loved Will Levis because you really loved Anthony Richardson? So it's either the biggest smokescreen or Indianapolis can't keep their mouth shut. And with Jim Irsay as an owner, I tell you, that guy out of Kentucky, the way I know you ask why he lost all those games at Kentucky last year, but do you know how many games Michael Jordan lost? You might not like it, but it doesn't matter what you think. So either that or Jim Irsay can't keep his mouth shut. And I don't know, but this was today. This was Matt Miller, ESPN, was asked, where will Kentucky quarterback Will Levis land? Multiple sources around the league say the Colts would love to select him, but that gets complicated if C.J. Stroud is on board. Quote, the Colts want Levis, said one AFC scout. The question is, do they love him more than Stroud? I think they do, but that's a bold move. Another scout added the Colts would probably love for someone to jump them and select Stroud so they can take Will Levis. So now the reported love for the Indianapolis Colts has gone from, look, if they're stuck at 4 and Will Levis is there, they're fine with it. They'll take him. They like Levis. They worked him out. They brought him in. They like him. That's what it was 2 weeks ago. Now it is, please somebody trade up and take C.J. Stroud, who everybody in the world thinks is a better quarterback than Will Levis, so that we can take Will Levis and our fans won't riot when we make the choice of Will Levis over C.J. Stroud. So which one is it? Just like these thrilling national security television shows, do you know who to trust? Is the director of the FBI on your side, or is he in on it? Is the president of the United States in on your side, or is he in the conspiracy? You'll have to watch next week to find out. That's what's going on with this ESPN Indianapolis Colts Will Levis discussion. Because, and not that I've sat there and checked everybody, like I don't know if Daniel Jeremiah at the NFL Network and Ian Rappaport and Mike Garafolo and Tom Pelissero, I don't know if those guys are reporting the same stuff, but it's every ESPN article I click about the draft says, well, Indy loves Will Levis. And I like Levis. Like, you all hate him. I like him. But I just, again, common sense would tell me that if you're sitting at 4 in a position where teams clearly can jump in front of you because the third pick that team wants to trade, why would you tell everybody or make it obvious who you want to pick? Why would you do that? The Miami Dolphins knew in 2020 that nobody was going to pick between them and Cincinnati for a quarterback, but they didn't let the cat out of the bag that they liked Tua. There were thoughts that Justin Herbert could go with that pick. With this, it's like, well, I would take Anthony Richardson, or, well, I would take C.J. Stroud. But all we've been told, we've been conditioned to think that Indy is in love with Will Levis. So then wouldn't, and again, I feel like I'm talking in circles because we're trying to figure out something that nobody will tell us, and even if they tell us, we don't know if they're telling the truth. Wouldn't that really mean that Indy wants somebody else? That Indy really wants Anthony Richardson? And the Will Levis thing is a total diversion? Or what if Indy wants Hendon Hooker? Now, Jim Irsay put out that tweet earlier in the week about, we may take a quarterback, we may trade up, we may trade down, we may stay and take a quarterback or not. We'll see the draft next Thursday. He did one of those. But I didn't think there was anything in it other than just Jim Irsay wanting to get his name out there in the headlines, which he did accomplish by doing that. But it's just crazy to me that everybody from one outlet just is screaming to us that Indy loves Will Levis. And all these teams are trying to do is hide who they like. Even Carolina is saying, well, we're not sure who we're going to pick. Really? So I don't know what to make of this Indianapolis Colts and ESPN love affair. But it seems pretty obvious to me that the Colts either love Will Levis or this is one of the best smoke screens of all time. Ian, what do you think? Do you think the Colts love Will Levis or do you think it's a smoke screen?
That's a good question.
Have to pick.
I'm going to say the Colts like Will Levis.
I think it's a smokescreen. And the thing is, though, is it's hard for me not to put my own feelings into this. Because I said
like
all
your
along,
feelings about Levis?
My feelings about Richardson.
Gotcha.
I said all along, when I saw what Anthony Richardson did at the Combine, and I watched some of the tape, and I said, this guy's not as bad as everybody's making him out to be. I said, this is the perfect situation for him because Shane Steichen's a new coach. He doesn't have to win right away. They signed Gardner Minshew, who's a free agent, who knows Steichen's offense, the Jalen Hurts offense. You sit Richardson on the bench. At the time, the Colts are a cheap organization, so they have cap space every year, even though they never use it. Every year, it's, look how much cap space the Colts have. And then they never sign anybody. But I thought, okay, there's all these tight ends that are out there. Whether it's Dalton Schultz or Mike Gesicki or one of those, sign one of those tight ends, bring in another receiver like an Alan Lazard or a Jacoby Myers to go with Alec Pierce and Michael Pittman, give the ball to Jonathan Taylor 100 times a game, and sit Anthony Richardson on the bench and let him learn the Jalen Hurts offense and then unleash him next season. I think it's a great plan. I talked to a former coach in the NFL who said it was a good plan. Then they signed Minshew, so I was like, oh, there you go. And yet all I hear is Levis, 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 Levis. But the reason why I think it's a smokescreen is because I prefer Richardson over Levis. And I would start Minshew and be okay with it. I don't know if Jim Irsay would. 615-737-1025. Corey Curtis, News 2, will join us next. What's he think about the C.J. Stroud Titans conspiracy? What does he think about the first round, the quarterbacks? What about non-quarterback? We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company right here, 615-737-1025. Ian, am I telling the fine folks about something right here? 615-737-1025. I'll go ahead and tell you something just because I'm in a good mood right now. Do not miss our draft coverage on Friday, 1 week from today. Join Caroline Fenton, D. Mace, and Chris Sanders as they will be on location for day 2 of the draft, rounds 2 and 3, on Friday at the Inglewood Wingstop located at 3300 Gallatin Pike, where flavor gets its wings. The first 100 people to stop by during the draft will receive a coupon for 5 free boneless wings for their next visit. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
102.5 and 106.3 The Game has an all-star lineup Monday through Friday. Batting first at 6 a.m., it's Robby and Rexroad.
Yeah, you take that. You take that. Take 80% of that.
Followed by Chase and Michelle at 9.
Couldn't hit the broadside of a barn.
I need my caffeine so much.
Then it's Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace at 11.
Yep, green light, let's go.
You've got a lot of options.
He say, she say. And bringing it home at 2, Jared Stillman for Stillman and Company.
That guy will be a good coach.
We are Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
It's time for another Kubota field event at Coleman Tractor of White House. Their biggest sale event of the year will take place in White House on Saturday, April 22nd. Don't miss this perfect opportunity to demo Kubota tractors, zero-turn mowers, and more. Take advantage of Kubota's competitive financing offers. Receive a coupon for up to $250 off select purchases. Plus, enter to win prizes and free barbecue lunch from 11 to 1. Try it and buy it during the Kubota field event Saturday, April 22nd from 9 to 2 p.m. at Coleman Tractor of White House at 3613 Highway 31 West.
Michelle Knezvik here for Superbook Sports. Baseball is back and the push for the postseason is on for hockey and hoops. Make it all count this spring with Superbook Sports. Superbook Sports is the best wagering app around with a direct line to experienced bookmakers behind the counter in the one and only Superbook in Las Vegas. Plus, get a $250 bonus when you sign up, deposit, and wager all in the same day. Don't let spring pass you by without winning some money with Superbook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789.
What if you could be credit card debt-free in 10 days and save as much as $1,000 a month? Loan Pronto's all-new Express Equity Line of Credit program is just what you need. Willie Donick here. You don't have to do a full home refi. You can tap a small portion of the equity you have and enjoy a super low monthly payment. With Loan Pronto's Express Equity Credit Line, you can close in 7 to 10 days, and a $50,000 loan would only cost you around $400 a month. Use that money to pay off high-interest credit cards or do a home improvement. You can access up to 90% of your home's equity, and 9 out of 10 homeowners won't even need an appraisal. Even if you did a total refi recently or just bought your home, you can tap the equity with this fast, easy program. Stop the madness and say no to 24% interest fees. Call Loan Pronto today. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
This is Jim Mitchell at Mr. Transmission in Madison. Many of you care about a cure for cystic fibrosis. I care a lot and support the Saturday, May 6th golf tournament at Hendersonville's beautiful Country Hill Golf Course. It's the CureForOurFriends.org 9th annual golf tournament for cystic fibrosis. Tee off at 7:30 a.m. and 1 p.m. on May the 6th. Lots of prizes and sports stars, lunch and dinner provided for each tee time. Sign up at CureForOurFriends.org. That's CureForOurFriends.org.
Green Trees Company Dispensary and 102.5 The Game want to send you to see the legendary Steve Miller Band live April 30th at First Bank Amphitheater. Keep listening to Nashville's best sports talk all week long for your cue to call to win tickets to see Steve Miller Band, courtesy of Green Trees Company Dispensary.
We try to stay cool by being on social media.
I'm with it. I'm hip.
Follow us on Twitter at 102.5 The Game and on Instagram at 102.5 The Game Nashville.
Hey!
Oh yeah, and like us on Facebook too. You're listening to Stillman and Company, presented by TriStar Moving on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Todd, I don't get the sense that the Tennessee Titans would be willing to move all the way up to 3 for a quarterback, right, but I know that they are in the business of perhaps getting one.
Diana Rossini, the direct line to Mike Vrabel, says yesterday on ESPN, I don't think they're going to move all the way up to 3, but I do think that the Titans are in the quarterback market, or I guess as she said, perhaps in the quarterback market. With that, Corey Curtis joins us from News 2. They'll have a draft special Sunday night on Sports Extra, which I believe I'm a part of. Corey, how are you? Let's start with this. Diana Rossini said yesterday she doesn't get the sense the Titans are going to trade up to 3, but she does think they're going, or she thinks they perhaps are going quarterback. What do you make of that?
Didn't she also say that they're not in love with any one of the quarterbacks?
Did she say that? I didn't hear that.
I think I was reading that on Twitter before I came on with you, that there's the people in the building aren't in love with. Look, all of it right now is smoke. I mean, because if you want one of the quarterbacks, you certainly don't want everybody to know you want one of the quarterbacks. If you want to trade up for 3, you don't want the other teams to know you want to trade up for 3. So, you really can't believe a lot of what you're saying, because if I were the Titans, I would make it sound like I prefer not much less about the quarterbacks than I do. So I think, I think we have to continue to focus on what we know, okay? And that's they spent an awful lot of time and resources researching these 5 quarterbacks. There's no question about that. They have looked at these guys hard. There is some kind of interest in those guys because they took it very seriously.
Okay, so apparently Diana Rossini went on across the street, and she said, quote, as of right now, there's not a quarterback in the draft that building is absolutely in love with. So here's my thing about this. Here's my conjecture on that, Corey, and I'll get your reaction to it. I believe that what Diana said, that cut that we played right there yesterday on TV, I think that was a throwaway. Like, the conversation wasn't about the Titans. The conversation was about Houston and the second pick and the Raiders. Mm-hmm. And Todd McShay mentioned the Titans. And it was like Diana was, hey, hold up. Because everybody sometimes has to prove how much they know. I think the Titans are not moving up to 3. I don't get that sense. But I do think the Titans are interested in a quarterback. And I think she knows that because, like I said, I think she's a direct line to Vrabel. And yes, this time of the year, Vrabel probably wants to know what she knows about the other teams. So he's going to have to give a little in order to get a little. And so I believe that that's why now that's damage control of Diana going on a local Nashville station and saying, well, I don't think they love anyone. I don't think the first thing's a smokescreen. I think the second thing is because that was I'm going on in Nashville, and I know they're going to parse every word that I say. What do the Titans want out there? And it's, we don't love any of these guys. So I actually think that means they do love one of these guys, and they're not going to tell you who it is.
Well, that's kind of what I just said. That's if I really wanted to get one of those guys, and I wanted to get one at 3, or I wanted to get one at 7, or I wanted to get one at 11, I would not let everybody know because, when everybody knows that this is what you want, they've got you in the negotiating window. And also, if there are other teams that may be looking to make that move, I mean, the Raiders could be looking to move up. Shoot, the Seahawks could move up from 5. It'd be easy for them. And, you don't want them in on that conversation and in on that thought process. So I think that absolutely makes the most sense that is the message that you would want out there on the week eve of the draft.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you the same question, Corey Curtis, that I asked TD and Chris Sanders. What % chance do you think that the Titans go quarterback, and what % chance do you think they don't go quarterback?
Well, I'm at 50-50. I really am. I'm at 50-50. I think, I think they want to go quarterback because they understand where they're at, but I think the draft has to fall in the right way for them. Because, you think about it and you think about where they are as an organization and you say, you know what, the best thing they could do is trade down, accumulate picks, and add 3, 4, 5 players that could really help them because they've got that many spots in the roster that could probably use some serious help in this draft. But there is no elixir in the National Football League like a franchise quarterback. There just isn't. And so if you can get that guy who's your guy for the next 10 to 15 years and you see him there, then that outweighs absolutely everything. The only question is how many guys do they view that way, and do they have a shot at any of those guys? That's the questions that I've got. I have my hunches that there's 1 or 2 guys they feel that way about, and it's just, is there an opportunity? Because, look, I think they want C.J. Stroud if he's there at 3. I do. But would they be willing to give up what the 49ers gave up for Trey Lance to get there? Because the 49ers gave up a ton. They went way over the point chart to get there.
So what are the hunches that you have?
The hunches that I have are that it's not going to happen. And that they're going to wind up either trading down or taking a tackle or a receiver because it's going to be too expensive, or somebody else who's closer to 3 is going to make the move up, and the Cardinals won't have to trade back as far, and they'll still get assets and get a guy they really want. But we'll see.
How high do you think these quarterbacks are all going to go?
I think they're all off the board by 25.
So, and you're including Hooker in that?
Yep.
Let's take Hooker out of it. Where do you think the 4 will go?
1, 3, 4. When did the Bucks pick?
19.
19? Yeah.
So
That's
you think there
like
will
that.
be a quarterback that is on the board when the Titans, Corey Curtis, News 2's with us, when the Titans are on the board Thursday night at 11, whether they move up, move down, move whatever, you think that when that 11th pick comes, there will be one of the 4 quarterbacks available?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think Levis and Hooker will both be available when they pick at 11.
Okay, so you brought up your hunches, and you said that you've got hunches about what may happen or what they like or what they think. I'll be honest with you. I think the Titans like 2 quarterbacks. One of them, C.J. Stroud, and the other one is one of the 3. I think it's Levis.
You think it's Levis? Okay.
I do. I think that they like Will Levis. He scored very highly on the S2 cognitive test, which the Titans pay a lot of money in order to access. He runs the same style of offense at Kentucky, which Hendon Hooker and Anthony Richardson do not. And I think they can play Tannehill next year, fix the holes in his game, and he'll be 23 years old, and they'll feel okay about that. Whereas when it comes to Richardson may not be ready by next year when Tannehill's contract's up, or Hooker may never catch on to, this style of offense in the NFL. I think it's Stroud 1, Levis 2, and that is literally just a hunch for me, Corey.
You talk about the S2, and supposedly Stroud didn't do well on the S2.
In 18.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know.
Think about this. 18 is not good in anything in sports. It's bad in golf. It's bad in, 18. It's bad in NASCAR to finish 18th. It's bad literally in math. It's bad. There's nothing good about being 18. Like in
Premier
anything.
League soccer, you don't get relegated at 18.
That's it?
That's it. 19 and 20 get relegated. 18, you're safe.
Because in the college football playoff, you don't even make it even with the new expanded field. You won't make it if you're 18th in the country. 18.
Yeah.
Corey Curtis, News 2's with us.
But at the same time, and we go through this stuff all the time, you have to watch the tape. You just do. And you see, can he find receivers? Can he make decisions? Can he throw the rock? Yep.
Well, so one of the executives in that Bob McGinn story, in which he reveals that C.J. Stroud got an 18, said that it doesn't mean if you do well that you'll be a good football player. It does mean that you'll be a bad quarterback if you do poorly on it. And 18 is alarmingly bad. Like, take somebody off the board bad.
And maybe that's what scared the Texans off of him at 2.
I think he's tanking that test.
You think he tanked it on purpose?
How do you get an 18? You could put a freaking calculus test in front of me right now. I haven't taken a math class in 14 years. And you could put, advanced calculus in front of me. And I think just by trying to show my work, I could get more than an 18. Maybe.
There's been a lot of things to tank him. So maybe there's something in cahoots.
Well, I had this 9-minute conspiracy theory earlier today that the tank was on. Corey Curtis is with us, News 2. What's your Fireball hot take this week?
I have changed, Jared. And I'm old, as we know, and not a lot of old people change. But I have changed because I have always been a build your football team inside out, and I still largely believe that. You build your football team inside out. But as I sit here and I stare at the Titans at 11, if they don't go quarterback, I am really looking at Jackson Smith and Jigba over any of the offensive linemen in the draft because I just go back and look at it as one thing. When the Titans had Taylor Lewan and he went down, they were able to fill in with some kind of random guys, Ty Sembralo, the other big guy who left, and did okay. They didn't struggle until Dennis Daly came in and was just god-awful. But A.J. Brown changed the game for them. So I'm more along the lines of a wide receiver can change their offense and they can get a decent tackle or offensive lineman later in the draft, but they can't necessarily get a wide receiver who changes the game for them. And so I'm going back to the Jamar Chase, Penei Sewell situation, and I'm about getting guys who can get the football and change the game. about if they don't go quarterback taking JSN in the draft.
I don't even think he's on the board.
Well, if he is, I'm all about him. If not,
Well, I'm talking about I don't think he's on their board. I think they've taken him off.
Oh, really?
Well, he had that massive hamstring injury last year that cost him the entire season, basically. And this is a team that has said, we are against soft tissue injuries, and they didn't bring him in for a top 30 visit, and I cannot imagine that they would use the 11th overall.
Stroud either.
What's that?
They didn't bring Stroud in either.
He is not dealing with a hamstring injury where they would need their doctors to look at it.
But they're both Ohio State guys.
But you need your doctors to look at that hamstring.
Yeah, I think Vrabel, you could be right. But all I know is he went for 340 against Utah with 3 touchdowns.
Fine.
That's all.
You do know, though, like the last general manager got fired because he took chances on injured guys. And now you're going to go to the owner and say, we didn't bring him in for a medical recheck, but I trust Jimmy, the trainer at Ohio State. He says Smith and Jigba's fine. He gets out there, pops that hammy in week 3. You're going to go back to Amy and say, but Jimmy told me.
This is a soft tissue injury, though. It's different than a back or an ACL or an aging veteran.
It's worse.
He's young. He's young.
It's
He's
worse.
Young. It's not worse. He's young. He's a baby.
It's worse.
Baby.
Hendon Hooker's got a torn ACL. I don't care about that. The hamstring, the soft tissue injuries, if you're going to sit there and call out David Long and not bring him back and call out Christian Fulton and then go draft the guy with a soft tissue injury, cost him a whole season. Good luck to you.
Jared. Those guys have been pros for 4 years. This guy was in college.
It's still a soft tissue injury.
Yeah, it's a soft tissue injury.
I would be okay with it I would never be okay with it, but if they had brought him in and they had their doctors analyze that hamstring, then I'd be okay with it. But you get 30 of these, and the idea that they wouldn't take one just to look at the hamstring if they were considering him means to me that they're not considering him.
A.J. Brown pulled his hamstring right out of the chute when he got drafted by the Titans. Is that why they traded him away? They couldn't trust him, pulled his hamstring?
They did trade A.J. Brown in part because of the injuries, according to them.
Okay. No, according to them. I think they're making excuses.
Corey Curtis, News 2, as always on the program. Again, the draft special Sunday night on News 2, right, Corey?
Are you going to be there?
Well, you invited me. I said yes, and then you just said okay, so I didn't know if that was, you're in or you're out. I don't know.
No. Jared, come on, you're in.
I'm in. All right, great. News 2 Sports Extra on Sunday. Appreciate you, Corey.
All right, later, dude.
Yep. Well, no, we're not going to go through all these soft tissue injuries, bitch about the soft tissue injuries the way they bitched about them, and then go draft a guy who missed an entire season because he had a soft tissue injury and not bring him in for a medical check with your doctor. You can't do that. Corey, I love you, but you can't do that. So there are a lot of people out there that think the Titans need to go offensive line. Jared, we need offensive line. Well, I read something that may not make you think that would be a good idea. We'll get to that coming up. Join Robby Stanley from 10 a.m. to noon tomorrow for another Kubota Field event at the Coleman Tractor in White House for their biggest sales event of the year. Demo Kubota tractors, zero-turn mowers, and more. That's Coleman Tractor of White House, located at 3613 Highway 31 West this Saturday.
Good evening, and welcome to the NFL Draft.
It's draft season in the Music City. GM Rand Carthon will put his mark on the two-tone blue, and we have you covered. Join Caroline Fenton, Derek Mason, and Chris Sanders live from Wingstop in Inglewood next to Sinkers for Night 2 of Draft Night in Nashville. Friday, April 28th at 6. Presented by
Harmon Tractor and Equipment, B&B Flooring, Harmon Energy Group, D&M Development, and Smoky Mountain Tops.
On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
We buy any car. We buy any car. We buy any car. Any.
Trading in or selling your car, truck, or SUV? WeBuyAnyCar.com takes the hassle out of selling in 3 easy steps. 1. Get a free online valuation. 2. Drive to your local car buying center. And 3. Walk out with a check in about an hour. So don't wait. Get your free online valuation now at WeBuyAnyCar.com.
Find out how much your car's worth at We Buy Any Car.
Family Leisure invites you to vacation at home with a new spa, pool, patio furniture, or wood play gym this summer.
I really want a spa.
40 spas on display from Artesian, Best Spas, and American Select.
Prices starting as low as $29.99.
Family Leisure has over 100 sets of patio furniture with free delivery.
That sounds good to me, too.
We should really look at the wood play gyms for the kids. Family Leisure has the Diamond Point swing set on sale at only $24.99 installed. Family Leisure's vacation at home sale in Franklin and Antioch.
Do I need Medicare when I turn 65, or can I wait?
With more than 70 years of experience helping Tennesseans, Farm Bureau Health Plans can answer all your questions about Medicare.
Part A, B, C, D, it's all alphabet soup to me.
So if you're looking for an affordable way to cover the gaps left by Medicare or protection from the high cost of prescription drugs, you can plan on us to make it easy. Find out more at fbhp.com. Farm Bureau Health Plans. Plan on us.
The designer jewelry event of the year is this weekend at Genesis Diamonds. See all new creations from the world's biggest names in jewelry. Store-wide savings up to 35% and zero interest financing. Top designers are here with their newest creations: rings, earrings, pendants, bands, bracelets, many being shown for the first time. Extra savings on GIA certified diamonds as well as lab-grown diamonds too. Don't miss this once-a-year spring store-wide sale Friday through Sunday only at Genesis Diamonds and luxury pre-owned Rolexes, Green Hills and Cool Springs. See store for details.
If you're hiring, it can feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. In fact, ZipRecruiter has helped a lot of business owners find their needle in a haystack, like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers. Because Telly Tires has grown a lot in the last few years, Marco needed to hire everyone from a receptionist to a store manager to a head mechanic.
ZipRecruiter helps me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs to fill. ZipRecruiter helps me keep my business running.
Take it from Marco and millions of other businesses who've used ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter can help you find the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Saturday night.
Oh, nice feed. Holiday sets up Giannis for the lob.
It's an Eastern Conference first-round battle between Milwaukee and Miami.
Max Strus drills the three, and a good sign early for the Heat.
Coverage begins at 6 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey, Nashville, it's Mike Greenberg, and you're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Obviously, offensive line is another position group that the Titans could target at number 11 overall. When you watch Skoronski or Paris Johnson Jr. or Broderick Jones, what do you make of the top of the offensive lineman group in this draft?
I think it's a solid group, not a great group. I think that's kind of been put out there. That's a really good offensive tackle class, and I don't think it is. And I tell you, scouts don't think it is. NFL teams don't think it's a great group. I think it's an okay group. Paris Johnson Jr., 6'6.5", 315 pounds. He projects as a solid NFL starter. Broderick Jones, some teams have as OT1 on their board because of the upside and where he can be. I think 2-3 years down the road, he's one of the younger players in terms of on-field experience in this draft, really just a one-year starter at left tackle. And you see his feet, you see the body control, the way he moves, and it's easy to be encouraged about where he is now and also where he's headed. So Broderick Jones is in that mix to be the first tackle drafted.
There you go. That was Dane Brugler on Robby and Joe yesterday. And they asked about, hey, what do you think about this offensive line class? And he's like, a lot of people say it's good. I'm not sure it is. And I was reading, Bob McGinn posted the S2 scores where Bryce Young got a 98 and C.J. Stroud got an 18, which was alarming. And he posted it at golongtd.com. And you have to have a subscription to read the stories at golongtd.com. I do have a subscription. Tyler Dunn, who runs that's a good NFL writer and a good friend. And so I've got a subscription to that. And I was just, this morning reading up the story about the quarterbacks, and there was one on the offensive lineman. So I clicked it. And this is Bob McGinn, who has covered the Packers for years. He's an old school NFL journalist. So he knows the people. Quote, this is a long-in-the-tooth NFL personnel executive on the offensive line. And remember, there are a lot of people out there that are like, Jared, we need a line. We need line help before anything else. We got to fix the line. Quote, this is the worst offensive line crowd in the history of the draft, maybe. A long-in-the-tooth NFL personnel executive said. We have like 15 guys in our top 150. For an entire 32-team league, we need 320 linemen. It's so bad, he continued. There's going to be some reaches on offensive linemen in the draft. I think every lineman in the top 100 overall will go a half a round to a full round, if not 2 rounds, higher than they would normally go in a given year. So he's saying all these guys that we're told, Paris Johnson, Broderick Jones, Peter Skoronski, that in an average draft, they'd be into the first round guys or they'd be second round guys. Now, because there's no offensive linemen and every team needs linemen, especially your team, it's like, yeah, well, we better draft them because we don't have them. 6 years ago, according to Bob McGinn's article, 6 years ago, talent evaluators also foresaw a terrible draft for offensive linemen. That year, however, teams didn't even bite. Just 10 were taken among the top 100 selections, a far cry from the 5-year average of 19.4 between 2018 and 2022. Only Deion Dawkins, apparently, according to this article, has made the Pro Bowl from the 2017 draft as an offensive lineman. And I guess they say that Charles Cross, an executive for an AFC team, says that Charles Cross, who went 9th overall last year to Seattle, Charles Cross would still be the top guy in this draft by head and shoulders. There are guys with traits. Paris Johnson has those kind of traits, so it wouldn't surprise me if people took him at pick 9 or 10, but the film isn't as clean as some of those other guys that have gone that high. A lot of those guys don't feel as clean as what you feel like for a first-round offensive lineman. In fact, one scout in this league said in this article they actually think Nicholas Petit-Ferrer was better at tackle for Ohio State in 2021 than Paris Johnson was. And I think we all know Nicholas Petit-Ferrer has a lot left to be desired as far as his play was concerned last year. And that not only to add more to the discussion, but it is hard to grow offensive linemen in today's game because they don't practice anymore. It used to be they draft the guy and he'd come in and then you got 2-a-days with the pads and you're thumping and you're hitting and all of those things. And then people would play real preseason games and now everybody is scared to death of somebody getting hurt, so they don't want any of these guys to play in the preseason. So they don't practice at all. How do you practice being an offensive lineman if you get to wear pads 10 times in the month before the season starts? There's no way. There's no way to sit there and say, okay, we're thumping today with the pads on. All right, we thumped. And the offensive line coach says, okay, we like this with your technique. And so now we want you to get your butt down further. We want you to get your hands out faster. We want you to get the blah, blah, blah. And so then in 8 days when we next wear pads, that's what we'll practice. That's why the games are practice for these young linemen because they don't ever get to practice anymore. So I feel like if you've got a rookie offensive lineman, it's going to take that guy a year before you can decide whether or not he's good. And that's why I haven't been yelling and screaming about Petit-Ferrer because I think there might be a chance that he's okay. But if Petit-Ferrer is what he was last year for the rest of his career, then he's just Dennis Daly Jr. That's it. And that's not good enough. And then I got these scouts telling Bob McGinn that Nicholas Petit-Ferrer was better at the tackle position than, and again, it's one guy, but that he was a better player at the tackle position than Paris Johnson, who, and this is another thing to think about with Paris Johnson, which is why'd he sit the bench behind PT when we know that PT is not very good? Now, TD sent this to me, and they were the breakdowns of the tackles, that they talk to scouts, and it's, literally each guy and the breakdown of it, kind of these scouting reports. Have you seen this, Ian? Darnell Wright's scouting report, the tackle out of Tennessee?
I heard some things that were not very flattering, if that's the one you're referring to.
So this is Bob McGinn talking to scouts. Quote, he is talented. He is a talented underachiever, not great football character. You could hit on him. If he has an epiphany and becomes a pro, he's got a boatload of talent. I put the word boatload in there because I can't say the other word. There's a lot of entitlement with this kid, but he did shut out Will Anderson, another scout said. Absolutely. If you want to like him, that's the tape you point to and say this guy is a starting left or right tackle, case closed. But when you dig into it, he's never been much of a worker. Barely does enough to get by. Not super cooperative. Hard work is not in his vocabulary. Just does enough. But he has absolutely helped himself. Had a good Senior Bowl, had a good combine. He's probably clean enough in the interviews that someone would say, hey, we'll work with him. I think he could flame out pretty quickly because he's not a worker. My goodness gracious.
Mm-hmm.
It might not be, and again, this is Bob McGinn's article, it might not be as easy as he thinks it's going to be in the league, a third scout said. Looked a lot more comfortable on the right side, really strong hands, aggressive, can move people around, hard to beat in pass pro because he's good with his set. You can't run through him because he's so strong. He's got character, which is an issue. He's got character issues, but he's talented. He's just got poor football character. Lazy. But he blocked Alabama. He blocked Georgia like it was nothing. I go, that sounds like Sean Kemp. It's like, yeah, he's really good, but he's also lazy. And I hear that, and I'm like, not drafting that guy. Let's listen to Rick Spielman talk today. Apparently there's an offensive lineman for Ohio State named DeJuan Jones who had a good first day of practice at the Senior Bowl and then didn't practice anymore at the Senior Bowl, weighed in at 386 at the Combine, then didn't weigh in. I don't think he did any of the drills at the Combine, didn't weigh in on his pro day, and didn't do any of the drills. And Rick Spielman was talking about that, about how he thinks he could be 400 pounds, and that's why he didn't weigh in. And said, he was like, and I should have cut this because it was so funny. I laughed out loud when I heard it. But so I'm paraphrasing Rick Spielman here. But he said that DeJuan Jones, he was like, yeah, we went to Ohio State's pro day, and after we heard about his eating habits, I think that I would know enough to pass on him. I'm like, what the hell was he eating? I mean, he's 386 pounds, and he doesn't want to weigh in because it's going to be way more than that. What is he eating, Rick? I want to know. And some offensive linemen in the league, like Taylor Lewan, is never going to be, in my opinion, a hippo. Like, Taylor Lewan is big because in order to play offensive line in the NFL, you have to have a little girth. But I don't think that when he retires, Taylor Lewan is going to be some big fatty. Some of these guys, I mean, they're offensive linemen because they just couldn't stop eating. And that may be some of the cases of these guys. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. We'll get back into your phones. Plus, there's one offensive lineman that people keep saying, oh, yeah, Titans. And I'm not sure I understand why. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company right here, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Fireball whiskey goes down so smooth and it tastes so great. There is no better way to ignite the night than to do it with ice-cold Fireball cinnamon whiskey. 1 week to go into the draft until we celebrate the future with Fireball whiskey. That's right. Ignite the night. Please do it responsibly and be 21 years or older to enjoy. Ignite your weekend. Fireball cinnamon whiskey.
We are Nashville's best sports talk, live and local from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. When you want the national
Hey. I got this. I'll take it from here.
Okay, go ahead. Dying to hear this.
We have the best national voices that you'll find anywhere.
Who was more deserving of being thrown from their game?
I'm odd, so I get the odd picks.
They have a new coaching staff.
It's not a bad scenario for them.
We are 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
And 94.9 The Fan.
The Electronic Express Spring Clearance event has been extended. Get instant savings in every department, including all appliances, laptops and tablets, smart home, gaming consoles, speakers, and more. At Electronic Express, we have up to 50% off all your home theater needs, including 4K TVs, soundbars, and more. In stock and ready to deliver. Plus, buy now, pay later with up to 3 years free financing. Shop the Spring Clearance event in store or online at Electronic Express. We make it happen.
Men, this is Evan Bass with the Tennessee Men's Clinic. and I've been helping men with sexual health issues for many years. I've seen the pain and anxiety that men walk into the clinic with when erectile dysfunction is affecting them. And I also know the heartache and difficulty it can bring to their partner. At the Tennessee Men's Clinic, we've been successfully treating men for ED for many years now. We've seen the amazing impacts that those treatments have on a man's confidence and positivity. And we've seen the wonderful things those treatments also do for a man's relationship. That's why I'm pleased to announce that we are now offering the same great services we offer at our Nashville clinic at our new location in Franklin, which will make it much more convenient for those men living south of Nashville to get treated. So call us today and book your appointment at our Midtown location or at our new clinic in Cool Springs. Your first visit is only $99 and includes blood work and a medical consult. Call 615-208-9090. That's 615-208-9090 or go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com.
Visit our website to learn more, including side effects, treatment, sex, results vary.
The Game text line is driven by Wilson County Hyundai. Online at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. Be a part of the conversation. Call or text the Game at 615-737-1025.
At Lowe's, we're always bringing pros more ways to save on the brands you trust. Right now, buy a select Bosch 12-volt Bear tool starting at $99 and get a Bosch 12-volt battery starter kit free. Plus, as an MVPs member, earn up to 3 times the bonus points when you buy select products that you can then redeem for rewards. Because Lowe's knows savings, Lowe's knows pros. Selection varies by location while supplies last. See sales associate for details. Bonus points calculated before taxes and fees after applicable discounts, if any. Valid through 4/28. Subject to change.
They talk sports.
The Predators get the 2 points, which is obviously what they needed.
They're not making big moves that are jaw-dropping signings in free agency.
They talk life.
Well, I almost just fell down the stairs, so there's that.
My backpack was so heavy, the seatbelt alarm was going off the entire trip.
But most of all, they have a good time.
Here or there.
Yeah.
Chase and Michelle, weekday mornings at 9 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Strong opinions and a strong personality on your drive home. This is Stillman and Company, presented by TriStar Moving on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
If I said to you, forget all the character, forget everything, bet you look at this tape all day. This is what you do. I'm an amateur. I'm a casual. You watch all tape all day, 22.
You put some time in now.
Who is the single best football player in the draft? The lock who will absolutely, this first year in, will play and produce. Because you're going to have 10 guys that are going to come into this league and produce.
I would say the guy that I would feel safest about right now, there's 2 guys. Dalton Kincaid, the tight end out of Utah, incredibly sticky hands, just a really great pass catcher. Don't ask him to block. That's not his thing, but he is a really good pass-catching tight end. And I think Peter Skoronski, the tackle out of Northwestern, I think he's a guard with Pro Bowl potential. To me, he reminds me of Zach Martin as a tackle who could turn into a guard. I really like Skoronski. As you see there, he gets bull rushed a little bit. He has short arms, so that's not really his thing. But as a run blocker, he is terrific. Put him inside a guard. Let him have a chance to become a Pro Bowl run blocker. Skoronski, I think, is a really, really safe prospect if you play him at guard.
There you go. That was Lance Zierlein, NFL Network, on with Colin Cowherd, saying, hey, Peter Skoronski, very safe prospect. I think, that he's listed as a tackle. I think he's a guard. And he's not the only person that said that or compares him to Zach Martin of the Cowboys, because I heard Dane Brugler do the exact same thing yesterday with Robby and Joe. And so that's kind of the thing, is Peter Skoronski is a top 15 pick in this year's draft. And a lot of people are mocking Peter Skoronski, the tackle out of Northwestern, to the Titans with the 11th overall pick. Now, the Titans did not bring in Peter Skoronski for a visit, which I find a little fascinating. Now, maybe they felt like they got enough out of the pre-draft process at the combine or whatever. I don't understand the point of drafting Peter Skoronski with the 11th overall pick. So what if he's Zach Martin? How many games do the Cowboys win because they have Zach Martin at guard? All I ever hear about is, Jared, we have so many holes that we're going to have to fill. And you're going to start with guard? Guard. And it is concerning to me that whenever it comes up and we talk about Skoronski, it's, well, he's listed as a tackle, but he's got too short of arms. And if you put him at guard, he might be like Zach Martin. How many Pro Bowl guards can you name off the top of your head? That's what you're going to take. This team, that you all think should tank because you don't see a way out of the mess that they've created for themselves by drafting Dylan Radunz and Isaiah Wilson and Caleb Farley, and you're going to go guard with the 11th pick because it's safe? What? Now, you know me. I like my big old fatties up there on the offensive line. But not guard at 11. If I take a guard at 11, first of all, if I take Skoronski at 11, he better play tackle because that's more of a premium position. And I can kick Nicholas Petit-Ferrer, who I drafted in the 3rd round, and I don't even think he's that good at tackle. I can kick him inside. But if I'm drafting a guard with the 11th overall pick, you better go right to the Hall of Fame. You better make a difference. Quentin Nelson makes $1 gazillion a year as a guard in Indianapolis. I don't even think he makes a difference for that team. Do they win any games because they have Quentin Nelson? No. So when I hear this talk about Skoronski, and I think it was Daniel Jeremiah said that, that would be a perfect scenario for the Titans. If Peter Skoronski fell to them at 11, I'm like, a guard? Like the perfect scenario would be if Bryce Young fell to the Titans at 11. Not a guard. At least with Bijan Robinson out of Texas, people say he's a generational talent at running back. Well, if Barry Sanders were to declare for the draft, I think Barry Sanders wins you games. Just like I think Derrick Henry right now wins you games. So if Bijan Robinson is that good, I think a team can draft him high and hand him the ball 28 times a game and win because of him. A guard? No, I'm not taking it. Jared, we have so many holes, I don't know what we're going to do. I'm not taking a guard. I'd rather have a pass rusher. And you would say, well, we don't have a hole as a pass rusher, Jared. Again, holes, you'll fill them. And the second that you fill one hole, then there'll be another hole. And 3 years from now, nobody will remember what your holes were. All that matters is if you get good players. That's it. Doesn't matter. The Titans didn't have a need at safety when they drafted Kevin Byard. They didn't have a need at receiver when they drafted A.J. Brown. They didn't have a need at running back when they drafted Derrick Henry. And so everybody tells me that this may be the only time that the Titans are picking this high. That's the reason for all the chatter about moving up for a quarterback. Because you may not be 11th ever again. This may be the closest you can be to strike a deal to get to 6 to be able to take a quarterback. But I'm supposed to take a guard with the 11th pick? No. In a year, and I know that this stinks because your offensive line is terrible, but in a year in which the offensive line group's not that good, I am not using a premium pick, the 11th overall pick in the draft, which has more value to it than what you received in return for A.J. Brown. I am not using that pick on a guard. Now, Skoronski can play tackle. If he can start at tackle and he can play tackle, then I'll do it. But I'm not using that on a guard. 615-737-1025 if you want to weigh in. Coming up next, the Jared Stillman Las Vegas odds on who the Titans will pick. Less than a week out, I've got the big board, and it is the Las Jared big board. And we'll get to that next. And I think you will be surprised at who number one, who I think the most likely player to be drafted by the Titans next Thursday is. Come on out to Bridgestone Arena tomorrow at 2 o'clock for the Nashville Predators open house. The open house will include tours of the Preds locker room, Lexus Lounge, team store, and the chance to shoot on the net to win 2 lower-level full-season tickets for next season. Get more details at NashvillePredators.com/open house.
Every day we are live and local.
Most people pick them to make the playoffs before the season even started.
And your source for Nashville sports.
He can still wait for 5 more games before he makes that decision.
We are Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
The team at Mercedes-Benz of Music City have done it again. Here's Edwin Vickery to explain.
4-time recipient of Best of the Best. Less than 10% of the dealers in the country receive this award. How did you do it? We say culture eats strategy for lunch, because we can strategize all we want, but unless you have the right culture and chemistry in the dealership, it will not work.
Live the dream at Mercedes-Benz of Music City, mbofmc.com.
This is Erykah Badu. Come take a journey with me on a trip of a lifetime.
It's the summer concert experience of a lifetime. It's the Unfollow Me Tour with Erykah Badu. Erykah Badu with Yasin Bey.
July 18th in Bridgestone Arena. Tickets on sale now. Available at Ticketmaster.com.
For more than a century, AM radio has evolved to meet the needs of our community. In their car, at home, or on the job, more than 80 million listeners depend on AM radio each month. AM radio is also the backbone of the emergency alert system, which keeps us safe in dangerous times. It's reliable, free, and public safety depends on it. Text AM to 52886 and tell Congress we need AM radio in cars. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
April was a busy hiring month for Cromwell Media, the owner of this radio station. We're saluting 3 teammates for 8 years of service: Cliff McCardle, our promotions director, and Jared Stillman and Ian Safar on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Janet Gers in our business office passes the 6-year mark. And Junnie Riddle in promotions and Lance Mackey in sales are celebrating 2 years with us. These folks are making a difference every day. Come join our amazing team. Send us your resume at together@cromwellmedia.com. That's together@cromwellmedia.com.
Your Game Center update.
The NFL draft news and rumors are coming out hot and heavy as we are less than 1 week away from the start of the first round. The latest news involves Ohio State quarterback C.J. Stroud. According to NFL reporter Bob McGinn, Stroud tested in the 18th percentile on the S2 cognitive testing, which would potentially take him off the draft board completely for some teams. In some other NFL news, 5 players have been suspended for violating the league's gambling policy. Among the players facing discipline is former Alabama wide receiver Jameson Williams. Williams will be suspended for 6 games. The NBA playoffs continue tonight. The series is tied 1-1 between the New York Knicks and the Cleveland Cavaliers. We will have ESPN radio coverage of Game 3 beginning at 7 right here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. And the Nashville Sounds are once again in Jacksonville tonight to take on the Jumbo Shrimp. Coverage begins at 5:50 on your home of the Sounds, 94.9 The Fan. I'm Ian Safar for 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
For more, follow us on Twitter at 1025 The Game or visit thegamenashville.com. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne.
Robby and Rexroad. Chase and Michelle.
Caroline, Willie, D-Bay.
Stillman Company.
Nashville's best sports talk.
Crank it up.
1025 and 1063.
Cranks it, he scores.
On both sides of the one big possession.
Touchdown, Middle Tennessee.
The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Where you have a voice.
He had a competent coaching staff. You just play terrible and you keep playing.
And we have strong opinions.
What a whiny freaking crybaby response.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman. Presented by TriStar Moving on Nashville's best sports talk, 1025 and 1063 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, 1025, 1063 The Game. Streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Thanks to Superbook Sports. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. Fireball Hot Take Friday. And we are less than 1 week away from round 1 of the NFL Draft. In fact, this time next week, we will be sitting right here telling you about the player or players that the Titans picked or the choice they made to not pick in next week's first round. And I think they will pick. And so people say, what do you think they're going to do? Who do you think they're going to draft? What do you think they're... So I decided, instead of telling you, I think they're going to pick this guy or, I think they're going to pick that guy, instead of doing that, what I've decided to do is I've decided to give you my personal betting odds. So this is like if I were an odds maker at FanDuel Sportsbook or out in Las Vegas. So we're going to call it the Las Jared betting odds for who the Titans will draft next Thursday night. So can I get a little Las Vegas feel here as I give you the betting odds? Okay. All right. So here's what we're going to do. I want everybody to know this does not mean with the 11th pick, without the 11th pick. They could trade up. They could trade down. It's what player I think they are most likely to come away with Thursday night. We start with the number one player I think they are most likely to pick on Thursday night.
Number one.
Will Levis at plus 400. And you're thinking to yourself, Will Levis? Well, let me say this. I think that the Indianapolis Colts are smitten with Anthony Richardson, and that's why you're hearing so much about Will Levis. I do think the C.J. Stroud fall might be real, and I think that Will Levis is a guy the Titans like. They've brought him in for a visit. I also think he's more likely to be available when the Titans are in striking distance. If it's Atlanta's pick at 8, if it's the Lions pick at 6, if it's your own pick at 11, I think Will Levis is more likely to be there than C.J. Stroud or Anthony Richardson. And for some reason, because he runs this style of offense, I think the Titans like Will Levis. I think he's a tough guy, which Vrabel likes. I think he's the most likely player to be drafted by the Titans. Will Levis at plus 400.
Number two.
Anthony Richardson at plus 450. Now, again, the reason why, and Levis was plus 300 yesterday, but with all the news that Indianapolis likes him so much, I took him from plus 300 to plus 400. Richardson, I haven't heard anybody that loves Richardson, but I think they do. The talent is just so immense that it would be hard for me to believe that somebody doesn't love him. So I think he's more likely to go ahead of Levis, although there's all this Colts drama about where he could go. That being said, he's got the talent, and I know the Titans like the talent. I know that they have been investigating Anthony Richardson. Kind of a roll of the dice here between Levis and Richardson. Richardson's 2 at plus 450.
Number 3.
Broderick Jones, the left tackle out of Georgia. Broderick Jones, in my opinion, has the most talent of any of the left tackle prospects between him and Paris Johnson and Peter Skoronski. And even though he's raw, I think he's got the most talent. I think the Titans could draft Broderick Jones. When I watched him play Florida, I saw a lot of Taylor Lewan. He's athletic and he's nasty. Now, he's got a lot of way to go in order to be Taylor, but I see it. And with Paris Johnson, he couldn't start over Petit Ferrer with Skoronski. He's a guard. The Titans have brought in Broderick Jones for a top 30 visit. I think left tackle is a position of need. I think the Titans would value the athleticism and ability of Broderick Jones.
Number 4.
C.J. Stroud at plus. That he scored an 18 on the S2 cognitive test. Now, I don't think C.J. Stroud will be there at 11, but I do think there's a chance that this has already scared off the Texans with that number 2 pick. Maybe Indianapolis has already decided they like Richardson or they like Levis, and then it could kind of be a race between Tennessee and Vegas in order to get to C.J. Stroud. Now, look, Seattle might be sitting there at 5 saying, hell yes, we'll draft him and stick him for a year behind Geno Smith and then get rid of Geno. But I do think 6 is probably where the Titans could trade up to. And C.J. Stroud, Ohio State guy, Vrabel, Ohio State guy, I figure C.J. Stroud with that cognitive test goes from plus 1,000 to plus 540.
Number 5.
Hendon Hooker plus 600. I saw the comps for Hendon Hooker, Teddy Bridgewater. And I have an immense amount of respect for Teddy Bridgewater. And I do wonder what kind of player Teddy Bridgewater would have been if he had never hurt his knee in the violent fashion with which he did. But when I keep seeing the comp being Teddy Bridgewater, and the comps for Will Levis are Matthew Stafford or Josh Allen, and Anthony Richardson is Cam Newton or Patrick Mahomes, and then obviously the top 2 guys, maybe they could trade down, but it's risky to do that. 11's rich for Teddy Bridgewater, but Hendon Hooker's at 5.
Number 6.
Our first receiver off the board, Zay Flowers out of Boston College at plus 610. Why Zay Flowers is the first receiver? 1, the Titans have brought Zay Flowers in on a top 30 visit. 2, his connection to the Boston College program would obviously have an impact on Mike Vrabel, whose son played at Boston College, and we've seen that kind of cloud Vrabel's judgment. 3, I think Zay Flowers is the best receiver in this draft. And I watched him single-handedly torch Louisville. And I talked to one general manager in the league who said, I know all these draft guys are saying Zay Flowers is a 25th pick, but I watched the tape, and I think he's pretty good. And I know the Titans watched the tape, too. Zay Flowers has come in on a visit, Boston College. He's our first receiver, 6th best odds at plus 610.
Number 7.
Paris Johnson Jr. at plus 1,100. I don't see it. They've already got Nicholas Petit-Ferrer at right tackle, and Nicholas Petit-Ferrer started over Paris Johnson Jr. So, what? And on top of it, I think that the Bears traded down to 9 in order to be able to take a tackle. I think it's probably going to be Paris Johnson, the tackle they're going to take. And on top of it, to add to this, the Titans did not bring in Paris Johnson for a top 30 visit where they'd get to know him better and he'd get to meet the owner. So that does play a role. Doesn't mean they're going to draft a guy if they use a top 30 visit on him. But Paris Johnson Jr., I do not see as a potential pick over a Broderick Jones, who they've already brought in.
Number 8.
Now, I already yelled at Corey Curtis about this. Jackson Smith and Jigba, the wide receiver at Ohio State, at plus 2,500 odds. That means, according to my big board, according to my betting odds, if you bet $100 on the Titans drafting Jackson Smith and Jigba, who I believe will be available with the 11th overall pick, that you would walk away with $2,500. And the reason I'm putting those odds so low are because Jackson Smith and Jigba missed almost all of last season with a hamstring injury he suffered in the first game. The Titans are so concerned about the injuries that they've dealt with over the last 2 years that they're putting in new turf for a stadium that they're trying to get rid of. The Titans have analyzed everything you can analyze to try to figure out the injuries. They didn't bring David Long Jr. back because of his hamstring. Mike Vrabel called out Christian Fulton because of his hamstring. And so now, because Jackson Smith and Jigba had a big game against Utah in a bowl game when everybody else sat out, I'm supposed to just forget the fact that the Titans have had massive injury problems over the last 2 years? No. And on top of it, Jackson Smith and Jigba opted out of the playoff to focus on the draft. That doesn't sit well with me, and I'm sure it doesn't sit well with Vrabel, the ultimate competitor. And then I think the number 3 reason, and probably the most egregious reason, as to why they will not take Jackson Smith and Jigba, is because he didn't make a top 30 visit. So you're going to tell me this guy, who you may take with the 11th overall pick, after your team has been tanked by injuries to Julio Jones and injuries to Treylon Burks and injuries to Caleb Farley, and you used a high-risky pick on Isaiah Wilson, that you're going to not bring him in for your doctors to look at that hamstring? I know he went to the combine, and I know he did the recheck, and I know they went to the pro day. You can't bring your doctors to the pro day. You don't give them an MRI on pro day. That's part of the reason for the top 30 visit. So they didn't bring in Smith and Jigba for their doctors to look at? You can't take that guy in the first round. You cannot go to Amy Adams Strunk when she says, are we sure about this hamstring? And you say, well, Jimmy at Ohio State says that he's making good progress in the training room. No, you can't do that. Your doctors need to sit there and tell you, yes, Smith and Jigba is fine. This will not hinder his career at all, which they'll never say because doctors are never that committal. But no, plus 2,500 Smith and Jigba, I don't think they're going to draft him. And that takes us to our final bet.
Number 9.
The field at minus 150. So in this case, you got to bet $100 or you got to bet $150 in order to win $100. But I do think it's probably more likely that somebody off the field, somebody in the field, Peter Skoronski or Jordan Addison or you name it, will be the Titans pick on Thursday night. And again, this isn't pick 11 for sure. This is just who they pick first. My guess is the field at minus 150 is probably the most likely to be correct even though I usually put together the combination of positions I think the Titans are looking at, top 30 visits the Titans have had, who's likely to be within striking range of trading up, or that the Titans would like with trading back, and yet I still feel like the field is probably your best bet. So those are my betting odds for who the Titans will pick next Thursday night. Will Levis, plus 400. Anthony Richardson, plus 450. Broderick Jones, plus 500. C.J. Stroud, plus 540, up from plus 1,000 yesterday. Hendon Hooker, plus 600. Zay Flowers, plus 610. Paris Johnson, plus 1,100. Jackson Smith and Jigba, plus 2,500. And the field, minus 150. 615-737-1025. So Will Levis is my number one most likely option for the Titans to bet. Now, that doesn't mean that I want Will Levis, because if you've listened to this show, you know that I want Anthony Richardson way before I would want Will Levis. But I am coming around on Will Levis. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company on a Fireball Hot Take Friday. 615-737-1025, 1025-1063 The Game.
185! Every team needs a quarterback.
185!
That's why we have
Hasselbeck, bootleg, rollout, toss, touchdown.
Tim.
You can run good plays at the right time.
ESPN NFL analyst Tim Hasselbeck gives his expertise on all things NFL.
You evaluate players, and then you're turning them over to the coaching staff.
Every Tuesday at noon.
At the right time.
With Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace. Tim on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
It's time for another Kubota field event at Coleman Tractor of White House. Their biggest sale event of the year will take place in White House on Saturday, April 22nd. Don't miss this perfect opportunity to demo Kubota tractors, zero-turn mowers, and more. Take advantage of Kubota's competitive financing offers. Receive a coupon for up to $250 off select purchases. Plus, enter to win prizes and free barbecue lunch from 11 to 1. Try it and buy it during the Kubota field event Saturday, April 22nd from 9 to 2 p.m. at Coleman Tractor of White House at 3613 Highway 31 West.
Genesis Diamond's once-a-year spring store-wide sale is here this weekend. 3 days of phenomenal savings across the board. You save up to 35% off Genesis already guaranteed best prices. Rings, earrings, bracelets, bands, and more. Plus special financing. You can even trade in your old jewelry for some amazing new designs from our world-class designers who flew in just for this. Extra savings on GIA-certified diamonds as well as lab-grown diamonds. It's our biggest sale all year. This Friday through Sunday only. And only at Genesis Diamonds and luxury pre-owned Rolexes. Green Hills and Cool Springs. See store for details.
Hey, it's Jared. Are you looking to move? If so, do yourself a favor and reach out to my friends at TriStar Moving. You can be assured your move will be stress-free because they've got new utility vans to help with pack jobs to separate your high-value or fragile items from the bulk of your furniture, and their movers are carefully picked and highly trained. No one in the game is doing this. TriStar Moving is raising the standard in the moving industry. When you're ready to move, give them a call. TriStar Moving, 615-640-1219, or online at nationalmoving.org/radio, and tell them Jared Stillman referred you for 10% off. That's TriStar Moving.
Cards issued by Sutton Bank and Celtic Bank, members FDIC. Terms and conditions apply.
What if you could do business without busy work? With Ramp, you can. Ramp is the future of finance with smart automation, corporate cards, and spend management. Just imagine, no more expense reports or shuffling wrinkled receipts. No more slogging through invoices or getting surprised by unexpected charges. Just your business's big idea with smart spend controls, automation that crushes busy work, and real-time insights so you can make it happen. In other words, Ramp completely reimagined finance to make it work for your business. Get set up, issue corporate cards, and start making payments in less than 15 minutes. See how Ramp does finance. Join today and get $250 just for signing up. Just go to ramp.com/sports. That's ramp.com/sports to get $250 for signing up. That's ramp.com/sports.
Want to weigh in on the conversation? It's a brain booster. Slide into our DMs. Or just text or call at 615-737-1025. Our phone line is driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. You're listening to Stillman and Company, presented by TriStar Moving on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Will Levis from Kentucky. Here's the worrisome statistic. 46 TDs, 25 interceptions. You want that ratio to be 2-1, and he's not there. So that's the worrisome number. To his traits, arm strength, quickness of release, footwork, play strength, defensive recognition, physical and mental toughness, all are excellent. His accuracy on deep throws and his ball placement and accuracy on shorter routes such as swing passes and shallow crosses is worrisome. It's average at best. His touch is pretty good. He recognizes defenses well. He has some difficulty with blitz recognition from time to time, but that's understandable. Most quarterbacks do, particularly sophisticated blindside blitzes. He's big and strong, a good runner. His accuracy on RPOs and bootlegs and extended plays is above average, and he's a real threat to run. For a big guy in these circumstances, he reminds you some of Roethlisberger in that regard. In fact, he has a lot of Roethlisberger physical traits. The question is consistent accuracy and ball placement. I would give him a first-round grade.
Okay, that was Bill Polian on SiriusXM NFL Radio on their draft preview show with his breakdown of Will Levis. Some good, some bad, not all great, not all bad. And so I'll say this. He is the most likely player, in my opinion, for the Titans to draft on Thursday. He's not the most likely player for the Titans to draft with the 11th overall pick, but he is the most likely player, in my opinion, for the Titans to draft. I think it's the combination of the guy they probably like the most, Bryce Young. CJ Stroud, he's not going to be available, because I think he's probably still going to go within the top 4 picks. Anthony Richardson might be harder for them to get. I believe all the smoke screening that Indianapolis just loves Will Levis is really about how Indianapolis just loves Anthony Richardson, and then that leaves you with Levis. And I do think the Titans, he's got a certain thing about him that just says Titans to me. Not that I want him on the Titans, but that the Titans would like him. And I watched the game that he played last year against Georgia, because a caller called in last week and said Anthony Richardson was horrible in the Georgia game. So I watched the Anthony Richardson Georgia game. Well, then I said, you know what? I'm going to watch the Will Levis Georgia game. I'm not going to look at the box score. I'm not going to look at the fact that they scored 6 points. I'm not going to just say, well, Will Levis sucks. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to watch the Georgia game against the best defense that they will play, the closest thing to an NFL defense. So I watched Will Levis, and I came away from that game kind of impressed. And I know you guys don't want to hear it. I know you guys are convinced he sucks because he played against Tennessee last year and he didn't throw for 100 yards, and you were disappointed by that. But when I watched the Georgia game and I started thinking about it, I started thinking about what the Titans like. I said to myself, this guy checks a lot of boxes. That Georgia game, they were so outgunned, Kentucky's offense versus Georgia's defense. Kentucky had receivers drop 4 passes. I went back in my notes and I looked at that today. And I'm not talking about, well, it would have been a tough behind the back. He got a hand on it, but couldn't. No, I'm talking about in the mitt and just in baseball, as we would call it, an error. Just a pure error on the receiver. 3 of which came from one tight end. Kentucky tried to throw all these bubble screens, which I thought was stupid after the second time, when they should have realized, our tight ends can't get out there to block the Georgia DBs, and they're blowing it up in the backfield every time. I thought the play calling was horrible, and Will Levis never quit. He's got a cannon for an arm. He throws a nice deep ball. But most importantly, what I walked away from that Georgia game thinking was, he's tough. He's tough. The TV broadcast started, and it was Jenny Dell, the sideline reporter, who I used to work with when I was in Boston. And Jenny Dell was talking about how he's got a bad shoulder, a sprained AC joint that they're shooting up. He's got a bad foot, and they're shooting that up with the turf toe. And I actually read that in the Bob McGinn scouting reports about Will Levis from league executives that said he is a tough son of a you-know-what. And I remember one play where he leapt forward on a 3rd down, and he leapt off the foot that they had shot up in order to have Will Levis play in that game with the turf toe, and he laid on the ground after he got the 1st down. And because he laid on the ground, he had to come out for a play. So he comes out for a play, And he goes right back in. And you could tell how much pain he was in. And I'm like, that is a tough guy right there. Then 2 plays later from the Georgia 18-yard line in a 3-0 game, Will Levis throws a ball into double coverage on the sidelines and gets picked. And it's like, dude, you got 3 points in the pocket. You cannot just give that to Georgia. You're not going to beat the Georgia Bulldogs making a stupid decision like that. And right there is the good of Will Levis and the bad of Will Levis. And so I put myself in Vrabel's shoes. And I say, okay, does he have the talent? I think he does. Does he have the projectability that what he is right now, he will be significantly better? I think there's a chance. Is he tough? Yes. Can he lead a team? Yes. Do we need to teach him how to make better decisions? Yes. If anything, I do believe that Will Levis, and this is not, again, my personal endorsement of him, but because you know I love Richardson, I think Levis might be the most Steve McNair-like player of this quarterback group. Just the fact that he's tough. He plays hurt. He's big. He's strong. He's willing to run over a linebacker even if you don't want him to. He's got a good arm. McNair had a good arm. He is accurate-ish. McNair was accurate when it needed to be, but McNair was by no means a precision passer. And they were a true dual threat. And they both have room to grow. I do believe that Will Levis has the potential to be an even better quarterback. And I asked his offensive coordinator at Kentucky the year he was good, Liam Cohen, about whom he would comp Will Levis to. Here's what he said.
Well, you know, you've seen some of these comps with Josh Allen and Carson Wentz, some of the bigger athletic guys. And if you go back and look at, you know, I think those comps are fair because of the big athletic, big arm, maybe wasn't on a top 10 team in the country every week in and week out. Some of the wins, losses, the statistics are in a little bit of parallel with some of those guys. So there is some unknown, just like there was with Josh Allen. And if you're looking at a real comp, I mean, I think like the Dak Prescott type world where he can really run the football and he's a weapon running the ball because he's so big. He's got to learn to get down a little bit and be smart, but he's a true weapon running the football. And if you get into some of the Max Pro play pass and movement game, I mean, he can push the ball down the field as good as anybody. So there's some of those things that you can look at in terms of the comp that are reasonable to some of those guys that people are talking about.
Big, strong, athletic, can run it. Dak Prescott, Josh Allen, those kind of quarterbacks. Again, that's what Steve McNair was. And ultimately, when it comes down to what made Steve McNair so good, you talk to a D. Mace about it, you talk to a Chris Sanders about it, you talk to those guys that played with him, it was his toughness. Watch that Georgia game. Again, they scored 6 points. Watch that Georgia game. Will Levis is tough. And he played on a terrible team with a terrible play caller, and I didn't see 1 ounce of complaint out of Will Levis. And that was an NFL defense he was playing against with the Georgia Bulldogs. And I remember when Floyd would always talk about the decision he made to take McNair out of Alcorn State as opposed to Kerry Collins out of Penn State. And everybody said, well, you know, Kerry Collins is more advanced because he played at Penn State. And Floyd would always tell me that he would say to himself, okay, well, how would Kerry do at Alcorn State and how would Steve do with all the talent and everything else around him at Penn State? How would Will Levis have looked with Ohio State's roster? Because I know what C.J. Stroud did. And I know that C.J. Stroud put up a bunch of points against Georgia. But he had Marvin Harrison Jr. He didn't have these guys Levis was throwing the ball to. He has Ryan Day as his coach running the offense, not Rich Scangrello, who one scout said, hasn't he had 18 jobs in like 18 years? So, again, Levis is not my favorite. I'd much rather have C.J. Stroud. I'd much rather have Anthony Richardson. That's my personal taste. But I like him more than you do, and I do think he's the most likely player to be drafted by the Titans on Thursday night. And I do believe that he's the most Steve McNair-like of the four guys coming out. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. We'll hit your phones, and we will do that next. Stillman and Company. Plus, the report is out there about C.J. Stroud and about C.J. Stroud's S2 test. We'll get into that next. Stillman and Company right here at 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
And time runs out on the Predator season.
The Predator season has come to an end.
It has been the privilege to serve as a general manager for the Nashville Predators.
And the transition to new general manager Barry Trotz has begun.
My vision for our hockey team, I want to be faster, more offensive.
What other changes are on the horizon?
There's a lot of really tough decisions.
Keep it locked on your home for Nashville. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
In football, we all take our hits, but protection, that keeps you in the game. That's why I always wore a helmet and pads on the field. Life, too, comes with risks. So I got vaccinated and boosted for COVID-19. Hi, this is former Tennessee Titans tackle Brad Hopkins. Talk to your doctor. Get the information you need to make an informed choice. Gear up, Tennessee. Protect yourself and your family against COVID-19.
For more information, go to nflagearup.org/Tennessee.
Family Leisure invites you to vacation at home with your family with a new spa, pool, patio furniture, or wood play gym this summer.
I really want a spa.
Family Leisure has 40 spas on display from 3 of the biggest brand names: Artesian, Best Spas, and American Select. Prices starting as low as $29.99.
What about above ground pools?
Family Leisure has hundreds of pools in stock and on sale. Guaranteed installation before Memorial Day, starting as low as $29.99. Installed.
Wow, that's great.
If you're looking at a spa, I want some new patio furniture. Family Leisure has patio furniture from all the big brand names like Hannemint, Woodard, Jensen, and Apricity. There's more than 100 sets on display to choose from with free delivery.
That sounds good to me too. And maybe a new Sabre infrared grill to go with it.
We really should look at the wood play gym for the kids. Family Leisure has the Diamond Point swing set on sale at only $24.99 installed. It's Family Leisure's vacation at home sale going on now at both huge locations, Franklin and Antioch.
Family and fun come together.
If you've been thinking about remodeling your home's kitchen or bath, contact the countertop experts at Smoky Mountain Tops. Willie Donick here, and we installed Smoky Mountain Top surfacing in our kitchen years ago. It's remained durable and super easy to clean up. Smoky Mountain Tops is proud to offer the new prestigious Vidara quartz for your kitchen or bath countertops. Vidara surfaces are ideal for use in almost any interior application. Check out the stunning new Vidara quartz shown at Smoky Mountain Top Studio. Contact the pros at Smoky Mountain Tops. Quality, service, and dedication. Visit SmokyMountainTops.com.
You want a mower that delivers a quality cut and an exceptional ride. You need the Kubota Z200 series with the new K-Ride comfort system, designed to give you everything you need to glide your way to a perfectly manicured lawn. Visit your local Kubota dealer today.
Visit Coleman Tractor Company, your local Kubota dealer in Clarksville, Nashville, Paris, and White House.
Harmon Energy is your one-stop petroleum solution across all of Tennessee, offering turnkey petroleum solutions for professionals in major industries, serving trucking fleets, construction companies, industrial plants, and more. Whether a large corporation or owner-operator, Harmon Energy has your diesel fuel, lubricant, DEF, and equipment needs. No matter how you're getting there, start with Parman. Visit ParmanEnergy.com for more info. Your Tennessee petroleum solution, providing totally outrageous customer service.
Sunday.
Green flag is out.
The stars of the NASCAR Cup Series tackle the high speeds of Talladega in the Geico 500.
They go 3 wide into turn number 1.
Coverage begins at 1 on your home for NASCAR. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
Checkered flag is in the air.
And the Game Nashville app.
Hey, this is Pete Weber. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk. ESPN 102.5 The Game.
I know Kentucky has had a lot of success over the last couple of years. But Will Levis right now, we're talking about competing with a Bryce Young at Alabama or a C.J. Stroud at Ohio State. And you mentioned all the guys that Levis lost after 21. If you put him in a, Ohio State, Alabama type talent environment, what kind of quarterback do you think we would have seen? And how much, if you were still coaching in the NFL, would you be thinking about that when comparing Levis to these other quarterbacks?
I think that's a very valid point. I mean, you look at not to knock our talent whatsoever. We had some, really good football players, and Will was throwing to Wandell and some good players. But you look at Ohio State, you look at Alabama, the 10 other players around them are, at an extremely high level right now. And then you play in Tennessee, you talk about Hooker. Well, those guys are running around free now a lot of times. And I'm not downplaying what they ask their quarterbacks to do. I really respect what Tennessee does offensively. But they're throwing us, it's good scheme, really good stuff, opening guys up and all that. And you look at how Will has been truly having to operate in an NFL system for the last 2 years. And I think if you do put some of those guys around him, you do make it his job to truly be a pro every single day. I just think that you would see even a better version of Will Levis, and I think his ceiling is extremely high.
Okay, there you go. Liam Cohen, his coach at Kentucky, on with me over the weekend. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Fireball Hot Take Friday. Jason has been waiting patiently and is up next on Will Levis. What you got, Jason?
Hey, look, you've got to be pretty long in the tooth to remember this, but when Jeff George was coming out of Illinois in the early 90s, you could just put him and Levis side by side, all the upside, all of this, all of that. He turned out to be a wash. He was a journeyman quarterback at best in the NFL. And that's what Will Levis is, just full of bad decisions. That's why, George had a big arm, had the attitude, had all these upside tools. Was for nothing because he made bad decisions. Just like you said in the Georgia game. They were on a roll. Bad decisions.
Sure.
He's made bad decisions all last year. Why would you bring a guy in like this? It's just it's hard to get people out. If quarterbacks out of bad decisions. If they make bad decisions in college, they're going to make bad decisions in NFL.
So I don't agree with that. I don't agree with the premise that just because a guy makes bad decisions in college doesn't mean that he can't be coached out of them in the NFL.
Yeah, well, true, but he's still got a track record, right? At Kentucky,
sure.
Levis threw
interceptions. I would say,
do on the S2?
And that was the big question. He did well on the S2. He did very well on the S2, which is, again, thank you for your call, Jason. This is why there are no absolutes. And this is what I keep trying to tell people about these quarterbacks, which is, I have a lot of doctors in my life. And every time there's anything medical related, I'll ask that doctor. I will say, so is that going to make this better? And the doctor will say, I hope. But the doctor doesn't know, because there's no way to know exactly how that one individual will react to that course of treatment. But they have a much better idea about that than you do. And they have a much better idea about that than I do. And that's the same when it comes to getting to know these players. And so you say, okay, well, I think he's Jeff George. Again, a lot of people say, well, that sounds like Jake Locker, what you just described. Will Levis was a 63% passer or whatever in an NFL pro-style offense. Jake Locker was a 50% passer in college. Not the same thing. But because he's big and white, people will say, oh, well, he's like Jake Locker. And because, like I said, a lot of you out there think that he sucks. That's what it is. So if you thought he was good, you would take a quarterback that's built similarly and you would compare them to him. You'd compare him to Troy Aikman. You'd compare him to Matthew Stafford. You'd compare him to Josh Allen. But because he's not, you think he's bad, you compare him to Jake Locker. That's why. Anytime I ask anybody to compare Bryce Young to somebody, they compare him to Drew Brees. I'm like, Drew Brees was taller, but Drew Brees was bigger. But other than that, Drew Brees is the smallest good quarterback ever. So that's why they compare, because they all think Bryce Young's good. But you can't use that he's Jeff George. Jeff George made bad decisions. And look, I don't know, Levis. And I am kind of young on the Jeff George front. His career was wrapping up when I was getting into football. But wasn't Jeff George kind of out there? I talked to Liam Cohen about Levis, and he raved about the kind of kid he was. Texter into the text line says, I'm not being a smartass. I am just being curious. How are you all going to feel when the Titans decide that they are going to draft a left tackle after spending weeks and weeks and weeks talking about a quarterback? How will you feel if they end up taking a left tackle? Well, I'm not going to feel stupid or anything like that. I have no idea who the Titans are going to take. I mean, I just gave you my betting odds, and I said Will Levis at plus 400. Those are not good odds. Like, that's how unsure I am of who they're going to pick on Thursday. But, I mean, I'm not going to regret it. I hate to break it to you, but quarterback is a lot more fun and interesting to talk about than Peter Skoronski or Broderick Jones. And that's just really with anything. I remember when I used to talk to Floyd about what it was like when he was working on NFL Live, and he said that during draft season, all they would ever talk to him about were three things. One, team needs. That's what they want to talk about. Team needs. Two, quarterbacks. Three, the Cowboys. That was all they ever wanted to talk about when it came to the draft. And look, quarterback's just more fun. That's why I remember last year, and I actually brought this up, and that was about, that was about when it came to Malik Willis versus Treylon Burks. And I was like, what's more important, Malik Willis or Treylon Burks? And everybody said Treylon Burks, because Treylon Burks is going to be a big part of this team this year, and we all assume Ryan Tannehill will be the starter and Malik will be a developmental prospect. Guess what people wanted to talk about during the preseason? Malik. That's it. It's quarterback. And in this case, you're clearly trying to go quarterback because Diana Rossini went out there and spilled the beans on national TV yesterday. And then I think tried to do some damage control. Texter says, you've talked me into Will Levis. Whoa now. Texter says, do you think Will Levis's personality would work well with Mike Vrabel's? I mean, I don't know Will Levis. Liam Cohen does, and Liam Cohen raves about him, but again, what else? What's he going to come on the air and say, yeah, he sucks? I don't, that doesn't, I have no idea. My guess is probably. He's a tough guy. And if he's a little cocky, which has been kind of talked about with Levis, Vrabel will work that out of him. I believe that Vrabel, if you're a gamer and if you're playing with that terrible Kentucky team and you're shooting up your shoulder and shooting up your foot to go out there and get your teeth kicked in by the Georgia Bulldogs defense, you're a tough guy. And I think that's what Vrabel cares about. It's funny because we only bring up the bad qualities and the bad players, but Jamar Chase showed up to LSU after they had won the national championship with that great team with Joe Burrow, and Joe Burrow left, and Justin Jefferson left, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire left, and Randy Moss's kid left, and Cushenberry left, and Grant Delpit left, and all these players off that team left. And Jamar Chase was only a sophomore that year. So he shows up to practice. And after 2 practices, Jamar Chase decides to opt out because of COVID. So he decided he was going to focus on the draft. Well, you know why that is. Because Jamar Chase went to practice and said, these guys suck. I'm out of here. Will Levis could have done the same thing. He could have come to Kentucky this year, but these guys suck. I'm hurt. I can't play. But he didn't. And I think that matters to Vrabel. I could be wrong about it, but I do think that matters to Vrabel. Texter says, I just tuned in. Have I missed Jared's C.J. Stroud conspiracy theory? We will get to that. Be patient. Texter says, Anthony Richardson better not be number 1 on your board. No. I'm afraid they're not going to pick Anthony Richardson on Thursday. Somebody texted me today and they said, I hope you and the audience that you have brainwashed into liking Anthony Richardson won't be upset when they don't have the fireworks next Thursday. I said, look, I'm not worried about being upset on Thursday. I'm not worried about how I'm going to feel about what the Titans do on Thursday or Friday. I'm worried about how I'm going to feel in 2025, because that's when this stuff really matters. All right, the C.J. Stroud conspiracy theory, backed by popular demand. We'll get to that next. 615-737-1025, Stillman and Company, 1025-1063 The Game.
when it comes to Nashville sports.
Locking up Jeffrey Simmons, clearly that was a priority for them.
He knows his stuff.
A little bit good, a little bit bad.
And knows how to push the right buttons.
He's coming off an ACL tear, and he's 25 years old, so you cannot ignore that.
Join Outkick's Chad Withrow every Friday at 5 with Stillman and Company. Withrow.
What I hate more than anything is people that are phony and not true to themselves.
Is on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
We buy any car. We buy any car. We buy any car. Any.
Did you know trading in your car at a dealer could cost you money? A recent study found consumers who trade in their car pay an average of $990 more. So don't trade in. Sell it to We Buy Any Car. Learn more and get your free online valuation now at WeBuyAnyCar.com.
Find out how much your car's worth at We Buy Any Car.
The designer jewelry event of the year is this weekend at Genesis Diamonds. See all new creations from the world's biggest names in jewelry. Store-wide savings up to 35% and zero-interest financing. Top designers are here with their newest creations. Rings, earrings, pendants, bands, bracelets, many being shown for the first time. Extra savings on GIA-certified diamonds as well as lab-grown diamonds, too. Don't miss this once-a-year spring store-wide sale Friday through Sunday only at Genesis Diamonds and luxury pre-owned Rolexes. Green Hills and Cool Springs. See store for details.
This is Erykah Badu. Come take a journey with me on a trip of a lifetime.
It's the summer concert experience of a lifetime. It's the Unfollow Me Tour with Erykah Badu. Erykah Badu with Yasin Bey.
July 18th in Bridgestone Arena. Tickets on sale now. Available at Ticketmaster.com.
Hi, I'm Jamie with Souls for Souls, a global nonprofit based in Nashville that provides shoes and clothing to people across the world. We're joining forces with 102.5 The Game for the second annual Music City Celebrity Golf Tournament on June 7th at the Hermitage Golf Course. A portion of the proceeds from the tournament will provide new shoes to children experiencing homelessness right here in Nashville. I hope you'll join us for an afternoon of fellowship and fun, all in support of a great cause. Go to thegamenashville.com for more information and to register.
Nashville's radio version of The Odd Couple.
This number makes more sense. It does not make more sense.
It's absolutely. Robby, Stanley, and Joe Rexrode are Robby and Rexrode.
Yay, we win. We don't. We lose. No, I disagree.
Robby and Rexrode. Mornings from 6 to 9.
If you're good enough, you're good enough. It's absurd.
On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Strong opinions and a strong personality on your drive home. This is Stillman and Company, presented by TriStar Moving on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
I know that the rumors around the league, the rumors that I have heard is that C.J. Stroud did not score great on this S2. There are a lot of teams who highly value the S2 test because it's a processing test, it's a decision-making. So it has been predictive. The very best quarterbacks, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, those are three guys who scored very high on S2. Brock Purdy was the highest scorer last year.
There you go. That was Lance Zierlein, who does the draft for NFL.com. And that was a couple weeks ago saying, I hear the S2 score is really bad. Bob McGinn reports of GoLongTD.com, longtime reporter. Bob McGinn reports that C.J. Stroud scored an 18. Anthony Richardson scored a 79. Will Levis scored a 94. Bryce Young scored a 98. That's bad. That's bad for C.J. Stroud. And I thought, hold on. All these red flags all of a sudden are coming out of nowhere. And then I started thinking about where the flags were coming from and what I was hearing and what I had heard. And I started to wonder, could Mike Vrabel and C.J. Stroud and Vrabel's group, the Titans, and Stroud's group be conspiring to tank the draft stock of C.J. Stroud so the Titans can get into striking distance and trade up? So I decided to come up. I didn't decide to come up with this conspiracy theory. This conspiracy theory popped into my head. So without further ado. Okay, so here is my Tennessee Titans C.J. Stroud conspiracy theory. Let's start by going all the way back to the Combine. TD was on our show, and we asked TD, what are you hearing at the Combine? And TD said this that this was what he was hearing about the Titans at the Combine.
I do know that C.J. Stroud is a guy that they really like. I'm just not sure if they'll be able to pull the trigger to move up to get him.
Okay, so we've now established that at the Combine, C.J. Stroud was the Titans guy, that the Titans liked him, but, man, that would be really expensive to get up to 3. And a lot of people said, okay, Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud at 1, but who knows after that. And then at that Combine, C.J. Stroud had an unbelievable workout. So all the talk of Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, that was gone with the workout, the passing workout that C.J. Stroud had. This was former NFL general manager Rick Spielman on his assessment of C.J. Stroud's workout and just how impressive it was.
I thought C.J. Stroud had the best throwing quarterback position drill and throwing to those receivers that I've seen in a long time. I mean, he really stood out with his technique, his feet, and everything was in sync when he was doing a lot of the 3-5-step drops that they have him do. I'm going to have him up there right now, moving him up a nudge right at Bryce Young category, and made him my 1B quarterback coming out of this weekend.
So at that point, we stopped discussing the idea of the Titans being able to acquire C.J. Stroud, because now the talk was that passing workout was so good combined with his size compared to Bryce Young's that they're going to go 1-2 and it's over anyways. So there's no point in talking, and the Titans can't trade up to 2 with Houston, so it's over. So we talked about TD saying C.J. Stroud was their guy for 1 day. Then the Titans sent everybody to the Ohio State Pro Day. Tim Kelly went to the Pro Day. Mike Vrabel went to the Pro Day. Rand Carthon went to the Pro Day. I believe the Titans sent 7 people to the Pro Day. I know the offensive line coach was one of them, so that's 4. I don't know if Charles London went, and I don't know if any members of ownership went. But we know that there are 3 members of the coaching staff or of the Titans delegation who made the trek to the Ohio State Pro Day, and we don't know who they are. And Todd McShay observed the relationship between Mike Vrabel and C.J. Stroud at that Pro Day.
I was standing there with Stroud at the Pro Day, and Vrabel came over and said, "Hey, go take a shower and let's meet in the wide receiver room." And there's a relationship there, and obviously, with Vrabel and his background at Ohio State, that doesn't mean that they're going to take him or want to move up for him. I'm just saying, there is a relationship there.
Okay, so now we know that C.J. Stroud is the number 2 quarterback in the class, or even number 1. There was all the talk at that Pro Day. Remember, Carolina sent everybody. Carolina sent the owner. Carolina sent them all. And so Vrabel has a private meeting with C.J. Stroud at the Pro Day. I think at that meeting, Mike Vrabel sat down and said, look, you don't want to go to Carolina. That organization is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, and Frank Reich is not that good of a coach. You don't want to go to Houston. That owner is also cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And I know, I'm just going to tell you that I know this. Nick Caserio, there were some in New England that didn't think Nick Caserio was all that bright. Now, I don't know if that's what Vrabel thinks or what J-Rob thought and told Vrabel or whatever, but I know that. So you don't want to go there. You don't want to go to the Raiders because that guy's a kook and McDaniel stinks as a coach. You want to be on my team. So we've got to $10 on the front end, but you'll develop into such a good quarterback that you'll make so much money it won't even matter. But you want to be on our team. And Vrabel's coach, Ryan Day, a Vrabel friend, maybe helps back that up. Maybe Stroud buys into that a little bit. So then let's kind of go after the Pro Day. This was Diana Rossini yesterday saying, and I believe that this is straight from Vrabel, and I think Vrabel gives Diana a little bit because he's trying to see what else Diana knows about the other teams in the draft. How are the Raiders feeling about the quarterback he likes? How do the Colts feel about the quarterback he likes? What about the Texans? So on and so forth. And this is what Diana said.
I don't get the sense that the Tennessee Titans would be willing to move all the way up to 3 for a quarterback, right, but I know that they are in the business of perhaps getting one.
Okay. So the Titans are interested in quarterback, but they can't move up to 3. Now, Dane Brugler on Robby and Rex Road yesterday said he knows for a fact that the Titans have been calling everybody, saying what it would take to move up.
The Titans have made calls to teams picking between 2 and 6. And I know that's not a smokescreen because I've heard it from multiple teams.
So they know it's too rich to trade up to number 3. But what about 5? What about 6 with Detroit? What about 8 with Atlanta? Arthur Smith, good trade buddy. What about that? So we'll call everybody to see what it is. Then, because, again, I think that C.J. Stroud is in on the tank. I think he tanks the S2 test. I think he tanks it because now he realized, how do you get an 18 on that test? And, again, I don't know anything about the test. I don't know how the grading scale. How do you get an 18? Right? Like, again, I don't know C.J. Stroud. He might be stupid. He might not be able to process things quickly. I don't know. But how do you get an 18? So I think he tanks the test, just like players try to tank the concussion test when they take the baseline so that if they get a concussion, then they can come back faster because they've already tanked the test to begin with. So I think C.J. Stroud, now that the tank is on, I think C.J. Stroud tanks the S2 test. Now, how do you get the other teams that might like C.J. Stroud not to be interested? He has to go on those visits, and he has to piss them off. So let's start with the Texans, because John McClain last week on Hot Mic with Chad and Hutton, he was asked about, okay, well, if Bryce Young goes number 1, where's the Texans going to go? Here's what John McClain said last week.
If Bryce Young goes number 1, what will the Texans do?
C.J. Stroud.
So last week, it was a foregone conclusion that that was going to be C.J. Stroud. Now, this week, after the visits, after the S2 test, John McClain was asked about it, and here's what he said.
I think it's been out there for a while that they've soured on C.J. Stroud at number 2.
So now they've soured on C.J. Stroud. What about the Raiders, another team that's going to be in the mix here for a quarterback? And we've heard that they only wanted Stroud or Young. Well, he visits the Raiders, or he gets to know the Raiders, and all of a sudden, the father of the offensive coordinator, Mike Lombardi, comes out and says, yeah, he's not very coachable.
When you talk to people in the league, they'll tell you C.J. Stroud is not, this is not a knock, this is just a conversation, not an easy guy to coach. Kind of, you know, okay. You got to be really, he's very, I think the word that people use is he's very not believing in what you're saying. And so he's a little bit challenging to coach. So it's not like he comes in and embraces it. It's a little bit, he's got a little bit different style to him.
Is that where it's like he thinks he knows better?
He thinks he knows a little bit better. Okay. He's probably hard to take to coach it. Not saying he's not a good player. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying the vibe that you get from talking to people that have interviewed him is he's not an easy guy to coach. And so what I've done is I've asked people, I said, you know, I've heard C.J. Stroud's not an easy guy to coach. Yeah, and everybody echoes that back to you.
I mean, Lombardi's got tons of sources in the league because he was there for a while, but I don't think anyone's closer to the situation than his kid. So I think what happened is Vrabel realized that he could not get C.J. Stroud unless C.J. Stroud was in on the tank. And I think for whatever reason, and Vrabel can be very convincing, I think that Mike Vrabel has leveraged his relationship with Ryan Day and Ohio State and C.J. Stroud in order to get C.J. Stroud to be in on the tank, to fall to the Titans, an organization that Vrabel can convince them is more well-rounded than the other organizations and more conducive to his success. And that is the C.J. Stroud, Jared Stillman, Tennessee Titans conspiracy theory. Now, we do have a response from Joe Rexrode with his thoughts on the conspiracy theory. He says, that's fun, and obviously wildly untrue, but fun. By the way, I'm pretty sure I wrote it, but Tim Kelly was at Ohio State too. Okay, let me just say this about the whole, wildly untrue. Because Liam texted into the text line, and he said, come on, Jared, this is crazy, even for you. Let me say this. Do I think that's exactly how it's played out? I don't think so. I don't know. Do I think that C.J. Stroud and Ryan Day and the Titans and David Mulligetta and Mike Vrabel could be conspiring to tank C.J. Stroud to a position to where the Titans could be able to draft them? Yes. And I think there's a lot of reasons for it. But we'll see on Thursday night. Chad Withrow will join us. Outkicks Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow. He will join us. He'll react because I sent him the conspiracy theory earlier today. I told him to listen to it. He'll give his reactions to that and what's going on with C.J. Stroud. We'll get to that coming up next. Fireball Whiskey on a Fireball Hot Take Friday. You know I love Fireball Whiskey. And no, I did not drink any Fireball Whiskey before I came up with my conspiracy theory. I have just been thinking that for the last 2 days, and so I decided to put it out there. But I do love Fireball Whiskey, and it goes down so smooth, and it tastes so great. Now that it's the weekend, there's no better time to celebrate your wonderful weekend than to do it with ice-cold Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey. Ignite the night. Please do it responsibly and be 21 years or older to enjoy Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey.
Every day we are live and local.
They played tough. They came back and they still lost.
And your source for Nashville sports.
Yes, you want to have a fire sale, but who's going to buy those players?
We are Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
If you're hiring, it can feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. In fact, ZipRecruiter has helped a lot of business owners find their needle in a haystack, like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers. Because Telly Tires has grown a lot in the last few years, Marco needed to hire everyone from a receptionist to a store manager to a head mechanic.
ZipRecruiter helps me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs to fill. ZipRecruiter helps me keep my business running.
Take it from Marco and millions of other businesses who've used ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter can help you find the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Now, your Game Center update.
The NFL draft news and rumors are coming out hot and heavy as we are less than 1 week away from the start of the first round. The latest news involves Ohio State quarterback C.J. Stroud. According to NFL reporter Bob McGinn, Stroud tested in the 18th percentile on the S2 cognitive testing, which would potentially take him off the draft board completely for some teams. In some other NFL news, 5 players have been suspended for violating the league's gambling policy. Among the players facing discipline is former Alabama wide receiver Jameson Williams. Williams will be suspended for 6 games. The NBA playoffs continue tonight. The series is tied 1-1 between the New York Knicks and the Cleveland Cavaliers. We will have ESPN radio coverage of Game 3 beginning at 7 right here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. And the Nashville Sounds are once again in Jacksonville tonight to take on the Jumbo Shrimp. Coverage begins at 5:50 on your home of the Sounds, 94.9 The Fan. I'm Ian Safar for 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
For more, follow us on Twitter at 102.5 The Game or visit theGameNashville.com. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne. Broadcasting on Alexa.
I appreciate that.
And other smart speakers. 102.5 and 106.3.
1, 2, 3. I think it was a good game. Had a couple of big plays.
The Game.
A Cromwell media station.
Where you have a voice.
He had a competent coaching staff. You just play terrible and you keep playing.
And we have strong opinions.
What a whiny freaking crybaby response.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman. Presented by TriStar Moving on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Thanks to Superbook Sports. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. Fireball Hot Take Friday, less than 1 week away from round 1 of the NFL Draft. You heard it in Ian's update right there. C.J. Stroud, the stock is falling. Bob McGinn, longtime NFL reporter, reporting at GoLongTD.com that C.J. Stroud scored an 18 on the S2 cognitive test, One executive says 80 and above is good. Bryce Young scored a 98. Will Levis scored a 94. And C.J. Stroud scored an 18, according to Bob McGinn. We've been told that the Houston Texans do not want to draft C.J. Stroud at number 2 overall. And I almost wonder at this point, is there a conspiracy in place? Vrabel's Mr. Ohio State, Stroud's the quarterback, starting to connect a lot of dots. Chad Withrow joins us now on the program. Hot mic with Hutton and Withrow. Chad, you've heard the conspiracy theory. What do you make of the C.J. Stroud slippage, and do you think that there could be some foul play afoot here?
I don't think there's slippage. I don't buy it. I think and I heard your theory from earlier. I think the most compelling piece of it is John McClain changing on C.J. Stroud. One of two things is happening here. When I say there's no slippage, I'm saying that the Texans either never liked C.J. Stroud, and this S2 test has nothing to do with it. We just had Ryan Leaf on our show, and Ryan Leaf said, what's less than 0? That's how much these tests matter. He said, me and Peyton Manning had the exact same Wonderlic score. You saw how that worked out. One guy won 2 Super Bowls as a Hall of Famer, and the other one's me. And this is coming from Ryan Leaf himself. So I don't think the S2 test is what, put it over the top or anything for the Texans. I do start to buy a little bit that maybe the Texans just never liked C.J. Stroud or any of these quarterbacks other than Bryce Young, which makes it even funnier, Jared, that they went for 2 with their past coach. And if they didn't do that in the last game of a meaningless season and a meaningless game, then they get the number 1 pick and they get Bryce Young. And we're not talking about this. So I just think they don't like the quarterbacks there. I don't think it has anything to do with the S2 test. Now, your whole thing about, is he tanking on purpose to get to Mike Vrabel, or is Mike Vrabel manipulating something behind the scenes? Is that worth $16 million to C.J. Stroud to play with Mike Vrabel? Is that how much it means? Because that's the difference between number 2 and number 11. At least it was last year. Aiden Hutchinson got $35 million guaranteed, and the 11th pick got $19 million. So that's a pretty steep drop-off if you want to play that game if you're C.J. Stroud. So I thought you laid it out well, Jared. I'm not buying it one bit, though. I just think the Texans don't like him. If they don't pick him, it's because they don't like him. It's not because he's falling in the draft. These teams have known for a while what they're going to do.
So I do think that the S2 may not be a big deal on the Texans front, or it was just that bad that they were like, yeah, this guy, we can't take this guy. But ESPN keeps reporting, and it's different people. First it was Jeremy Fowler, then it was Matt Miller. Now I want to say it's Jordan Reed, or I forget who exactly, that they just love Will Levis. I think it was Matt Miller wrote today that he talked to an AFC scout that said the Colts hope somebody jumps them to get to 3 and take C.J. Stroud because they don't want to have to take Will Levis ahead of C.J. Stroud and have everybody and their grandma think they're crazy for taking Will Levis ahead of C.J. Stroud. That's why I think, again, if there's a conspiracy in place, Vrabel's got to do his part, which is get to 6 or get to 7 from 11 in order to pick Stroud. Like, what's the difference between the 4th overall pick and the 6th overall pick? I mean, Vrabel does have to do his part in order to make this conspiracy work. And I don't know if I believe that the Colts love Will Levis no matter what happens there. And then how far could C.J. Stroud fall?
Yeah, I don't – look, it would be a bad decision if the Colts loved Will Levis, first off. And maybe they do. But, I mean, your guy, Anthony Richardson, at least last week you loved. I don't know if that love affair still exists, but could he be there at 11 for the Titans? I mean, if we're talking about now the Texans not liking these quarterbacks and not liking C.J. Stroud specifically, well, either the Cardinals are trading out of 3, and he's going to come up and get Stroud or Levis or Richardson, or they're going to stick and now draft a defensive guy. And then through that, the Colts now suddenly love Will Levis. Well, there goes a pick. Do we think Josh McDaniels and the Raiders, who are likely to maybe take a quarterback, will they love Anthony Richardson? I mean, it is likely that someone's going to fall out of the top 10 of those 4 quarterbacks. So with the scenario you're laying out, if everything is right with the ESPN reporters who are all saying Colts love Will Levis, if that's the case, and we now believe, And I'm believing it more now that John McClain is saying it because he completely reversed course from a week ago to now on the Texans drafting C.J. Stroud. If they don't draft Stroud, then there's a high likelihood that Anthony Richardson, your guy, could be there for the Titans at 11 without the Titans having to give up anything to trade up to get him, which would be pretty remarkable when you think about what the talk was surrounding Anthony Richardson just a few days ago.
Yeah, I still love Anthony Richardson. And I saw, what's funny is, and I'm guilty of this a little bit, not as much as the people that call this show, but if somebody says something they agree with, it's like, well, this scout said, and if it's something they don't agree with, it's, oh, well, what does Bill Polian know? That's what a lot of people, I think, have done. And in the Bob McGinn article, he talked to a veteran scout who said, think of Anthony Richardson like Michael Vick with Brett Favre's arm. And when I hear things like that, I can't not want to take the shot on a Michael Vick with Brett Favre's arm. Now, look, Michael Vick did plenty of stupid stuff on the football field. Brett Favre did plenty of stupid stuff on the football field. And, allegedly, Brett's done some stupid stuff off the field. But I just am so intrigued with that talent that I think I'm projecting my own feelings, Chad, as to the rest of the league, where I just assume like a Seattle at 5 with Geno Smith or a Detroit with Jared Goff or one of those teams is going to take Anthony Richardson anyway. I mean, I think the Titans have got to try to get to 6 if they want to make sure that they get the quarterback that they like in this draft.
Well, look, if they love Richardson or they love Hooker or they love any of these quarterbacks, I'm with you that that's not a position you take chances on. Right? You don't sit there and say, well, hopefully he falls to us. If you really love Anthony Richardson and you're the Titans, or C.J. Stroud, let's say, and let's say the Texans pass on him, and you can trade up to 3. If you love either one of those quarterbacks, you do what is necessary to trade up and get that quarterback at the best possible spot. I don't think you wait on that because it is the one spot you don't wait on because someone that's desperate or someone that's as quarterback needy as you is going to want to trade up in front of you and draft that quarterback, and then you're left with nothing at that point and not the guy that you want. So I do think they would need to trade up if, in fact, they want one of those guys. I also see a scenario, and I've really come around on this because initially when I heard the Texans aren't going to draft a quarterback, I thought they were insane. But the more I think about it, let's just say that they don't feel that strongly about any of the guys that's after Bryce Young. And they basically are saying, hey, Hendon Hooker and C.J. Stroud are the same guy, right, about the same level of potential.
Sure.
But they still have to get a quarterback at some point. So to me, the best case scenario would be what if they could trade, let's say with the Titans. Let's say they trade down from 2 to 11 with the Titans. Titans trade up, get Stroud, get Richardson or whoever they want. And now suddenly they've got the 11th pick, the 12th pick. They're getting another load of picks from the Titans in that move. And then if they could even trade back again with one of those picks, think about the good players they could get in the first round and possibly draft Hendon Hooker at the end of the first round. And they still get a quarterback. That's a developmental guy that could sit behind Davis Mills for a year for the Texans. I mean, I think that's the dream scenario for that franchise if, in fact, they just don't really love any of the 3 quarterbacks that we've been talking about so much outside of Bryce Young. Now, if that happens, I think that'd be, bad for the Titans, good for the Texans. But I'm with you on this. If the Titans really covet one of those quarterbacks, they should trade up and draft one of those guys. But I can also see a scenario where Anthony Richardson might be there at 11 if things fall just right for the Titans, if some of these reports are true.
Well, and especially when you consider, Chad Withrow's with us, when you consider the fact that Diana Rossini said Arizona has been trying to sell the pick at 3 since the Combine, and they have not had any takers. Then I don't know if that's true or not. Again, I mean, I think there needs to be an asterisk next to everything this time of the year that it may not be true that what this person is reporting. But Diana Rossini said that Arizona can't trade the pick, that Arizona wants to trade the 3rd pick, and that there's no takers. And so maybe these quarterbacks aren't as loved as we've hyped them up to be, and that Anthony Richardson and Will Levis will be there at 11. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that one of them will fall. We know that from past experience. A year ago was Malik Willis. Malik Willis was a first-round pick, possible top 10 pick for a big part of the draft process, and then he ends up in the 3rd round. A few years back, Justin Fields, possible number 1 overall pick, drops to like 11 or 12 when the Bears traded up to get him. So someone's going to drop. I think the odds are pretty high 2 of them drop. Outside of Bryce Young, you're right, we may see Levis and Richardson. We may see Stroud and Richardson. We may see Stroud and Levis. There could be 2 of those guys dropping, but the thing that will happen is one of them will. One of them is going to be available there for the Titans at 11. I feel pretty strongly about that now because every time we think, there's going to be 4 quarterbacks in the top 10 or we're going to see all this happen in the top 2 picks, someone falls at that position. So I feel more and more confident that the Titans will have the option of drafting one of those guys in that spot. Jared, I just pray it's not Will Levis that falls. That's who the Titans draft. But, any of those other guys I could get behind as a concept of what the Titans are trying to do at quarterback. And, again, I've been firm on this too. I'd get behind the Titans, not drafting him at 11, but if they could trade back and get Hendon Hooker later in the first round and get good picks in return, I'd be all for that as well.
I'm starting to drink the Kool-Aid a little bit on Levis. I'm just giving you a heads up.
Oh, come on.
I watched the Georgia game.
That did it to you? Did you like the bathroom selfie he took himself and how ripped he is?
You know what? That bothers me.
How many up quarterbacks have you seen in the league that turned out to be really good players, like Tim Tebow type physiques like Will Levis?
I agree, but at the same time, that Georgia game, I'm just a little bit. Chad Withrow's with us. More with Chad on the other side about the draft. I'm going to give something away, but first you have to let me tell you about how much I love my friends at TriStar Moving. That's right. I moved 2 years ago with TriStar Moving, and it was a fabulous experience. My friends asked me, hey, do you know a moving company? And I just send them the number, and I'm like, here, call these guys. It will be an unbelievable experience. The owners of TriStar Moving, Robert, Garrett, local Nashville guys, great guys. And they want to take great care of this community. And they've been fabulous presenting sponsors of this program for the last couple of years. That's TriStar Moving, 615-640-1219. Visit them online at nashvillemoving.org/radio, and you'll get 10% off your entire move. That's TriStar Moving. Again, once you get a bid from them, you will absolutely let them take care of your move. That's TriStar Moving, 615-640-1219, nashvillemoving.org/radio. Tell them Jared Stillman sent you for 10% off your entire move. TriStar Moving, my official movers. All right, I promised I'd give something away. Be caller 10 right now at 615-737-1025, and you'll win a pair of tickets to see Culture Club at Ascend Amphitheater on July 20th. Good luck for that. That's Culture Club at Ascend Amphitheater on July 20th. More with Chad Withrow next. Stillman & Company, 102.5, 106 The Game.
The college football season never stops. ESPN college football analyst Trevor Manich joins Stillman & Company every Tuesday at 4:30.
They've got to do what Nick Saban in Alabama has done so successfully over the last 10 years.
Presented by Houston Clinic Orthopedics on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey, it's Mike from Newton Chevrolet of Russellville. Are you tired of April showers ruining your mood and turning your car into a muddy mess? Well, Newton Chevrolet of Russellville has a solution for you. I want to introduce the brand new Newton Rainproof car. Yes, you heard it right. Our cars are specifically designed to keep you dry during those pesky April showers. Our patented rain-proof technology includes a roof that doubles as an umbrella, a windshield that repels water like a superhero, and tires that have built-in rain boots. With the Newton Rainproof car, you'll never have to worry about getting wet again. Say goodbye to ruined hair and soggy socks. And the best part? If you buy a Newton Rainproof car during the month of April, you'll get a free set of windshield wipers that sing in the rain. You can stay dry and shop our full selection of rainproof cars on NewtonChevroletRussellville.com and buy a car from the comfort of your dry home with Newton Fast Pass. It's the fast, easy, and dry way to buy your car online. So come on down to Newton Chevrolet of Russellville and make a splash with our rainproof cars. Hurry! The offer ends when the rain stops pouring, which could be never.
Hey, what's up? Teron Davenport here for Superbook Sports. Baseball season is back, and the push for the postseason is on for hockey and hoops. Make it all count this spring with Superbook Sports. Superbook is the best sports wagering app around, with a direct line to experienced bookmakers behind the counter in Las Vegas. Plus, check this. Get a $250 bonus when you sign up, deposit, and wager in the same day. Don't let spring pass you by without winning money with Superbook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problems? Call 1-800-889-9789.
Want to enter the construction field as a career?
Make good money and finish with no debt. Earn while you learn. Average starting salary over $18 an hour. First year of college averages $10,000. 4 years of our Construction Trades Academy, a total of $800 to $9,600. Applications are open with first-year scholarships available. CTANash.com. ABC Greater Tennessee Construction Trades Academy. Apply today. CTANash.com.
Want to see our smiling faces? You can watch us on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are good to go. Presented by Superbook Sports, voted #1 sportsbook in Vegas. You're listening to Stillman and Company, presented by TriStar Moving on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
NFL Draft 1 week from now. We'll be getting ready for rounds 2 and 3 of the NFL Draft. Chad Withrow is with us, Outkick on the program, Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow. So, Chad, I'm going to ask you the question I've asked everybody else so far this week. What % chance do you think the Titans are to go quarterback, and what % chance do you think the Titans are to not go quarterback on Thursday night?
So I think last week I went like 60-40 not quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
I probably moved a little bit on that. I'm going to go like 52-48 non-quarterback is still going to be the pick. But there's definitely something to all the smoke about, who they've had in for visits, but also, that they've been on the phone with some teams to trade up. So probably by next week, if we did this during your pre-draft show over there at Twin Peaks, Jared, I'd probably tell you it's like 70-30 quarterback with the Titans' first-round pick. But I'm not moved that far yet. So I still think they're probably going to draft a non-quarterback with pick number 11, and I think they'll be sitting there at pick number 11 drafting a non-quarterback.
So I think they're going to take a non-quarterback. This is just my gut. Now, I put together my betting odds earlier today, and I think Will Levis is the most likely player that they are to draft, the most likely individual player. I had the field as the most likely. But as far as an individual player is concerned, I made Will Levis the number one choice, just a nose ahead of Anthony Richardson. I do wonder, in this draft, are there any players that would be more valuable to the Titans if they could pick at 11 than any starting quarterback in the NFL? And remember that I feel like Daniel Jones is kind of the epitome of any starting quarterback, and he makes $40 million a year.
So you're saying, is there any position that would be as valuable as taking a starting quarterback?
Yeah,
or just any starting quarterback in the NFL?
Right, just an average starting quarterback. Let's say that is what Will Levis ultimately is, and at what Tannehill's career has been. Is there any player that could be there 11 that would be more valuable than that?
Yeah, I mean, yes, because if it's just a dead average quarterback and you've got a dead average team around you, you're not going to the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you took the opportunity cost of not drafting quarterback and instead held out for a trade for Lamar Jackson or, something else in the future to upgrade at quarterback and get a legitimate top 10 quarterback, and let's say you drafted Lucas Van Ness, I don't know, I'm throwing out a name, from Iowa, as an edge rusher, and that edge rusher turns out to be both brothers on your team, then that would be more valuable than an average quarterback, in my opinion. The odds of that happening are very slim, that you're going to get that guy at number 11, but it could happen. Look, I'm a firm believer that if you don't have your quarterback, you got to do everything in your power to seek out that quarterback. And the Titans don't have their long-term franchise quarterback. We all know that. So I want them to do everything in their power to seek out that quarterback. But I also believe that in doing that, you shouldn't just draft quarterback just to show your fans and everyone that you drafted a quarterback, unless you truly believe that quarterback is going to be something. I feel like a year ago, John Robinson drafted Malik Willis because he saw a guy with some raw materials, but that was very raw, and he saw a guy that may have been a first-round pick that fell all the way to the third round, and he thought, oh, that's too good to pass up. Let's take him. I don't think anybody loved him. I certainly don't think Mike Vrabel loved him. I don't think John Robinson loved him. But they took him because he was there and it was a quarterback, and they took a chance on a quarterback. Just another example of just drafting quarterback to draft the position isn't always the right move. It may be the right move this time for the Titans, but I'm not one who's for it unless you really love the guy.
Well, when it came to Malik, I kept telling people, like, guys, Mason Rudolph is a third-round quarterback. Davis Webb is a third-round quarterback. The idea that you're going to find a starting quarterback in the third round is very unlikely. You take Anthony Richardson with the 7th overall pick, he better be your starting quarterback. You know what I mean? There's no way around that. Chad Withrow's with us. So is there any player that you look at and you say the draft guys may not love this guy, or the draft guys do love this guy and I don't love him, or they don't love him and I do love him?
Someone that they're either down. I mean, the number one that comes to mind is Will Levis. I don't
knew you were going to say that.
The love for Will Levis is what easily comes to mind, because I just don't think you're watching film and watching games if you watch Will Levis. And I always just naturally am going to have a problem with someone that the first thing that you do when you bring them up is bring up excuses. You know, Mel Kiper making that thing, well, what does it matter if they lose by 7 or 40 against Tennessee when he threw all those interceptions that game? Who cares? Against a pretty bad Tennessee secondary, by the way. I don't like the excuses. The offensive line was bad. He lost his coordinator, all of that. I think there's a lot of excuses around Anthony Richardson. You know, I think he brought up some of those in that open letter he put on the Players Tribune also. But I do like the raw materials better of Richardson than I do Will Levis, and I understand the athleticism. I'm trying to think of a player where they have it wrong on them. I'll give you one because I know them, very well, watching all their games. I'm not convinced Darnell Wright's going to be a great pro for Tennessee, and he's a guy who shot up the boards. Right? I think Darnell Wright is a good second-round right tackle, but where he's being projected now, the top 20 pick, I can't say, even though I'm a Tennessee guy and I went there, I can't say that's a good pick. I can't say that he's going to be a first-round offensive tackle in the NFL. If he went to someone in the third round, I would like the pick. If he went to someone in the second round, I'd be okay with it, but wouldn't be sure that he would even have second-round, material over the course of his career. But a first-round pick, I think, is a reach for Darnell Wright. So that's one I'll bring up that I think the draft analysts and teams may be higher on than even I'm on him. And the other one is Jalen Hyatt from Tennessee. That's kind of a mystery right now. We thought for a while he's a first-round pick. Now I'm not so sure. And, there's knocks on him that, hey, he's a one-trick pony. He's a guy with great speed who can burn you over the top, but he's not going to do a lot more. So those are two guys that interest me. But Levis is definitely the first one that comes to mind that I think that the draft experts just have it all wrong on.
So the reason I asked, Chad Withrow's with us, is because, I think I see that Will Anderson has the size and the speed. And, I've seen Will Anderson sack the quarterback before, but I didn't feel like in a lot of Alabama's games this year that he took over the game the way a guy who, if you're going to pass on C.J. Stroud, to draft, should have done. I did not feel that way with Will Anderson. I did feel that way with Jalen Carter at Georgia. I felt like Jalen Carter made his presence known in all of those big games. I don't feel like Will Anderson did that. But then I hear everybody else talk about Will Anderson, and they talk about him like he's a Bosa brother. Oh, God, you got to take Will Anderson. I just don't see it.
Yeah, I would say the same about Nolan Smith when he was healthy at Georgia.
Sure.
There were games where I'd see him take over. And I didn't see it as much from Will Anderson. I think Will Anderson's a really good player. The Tennessee game is one. That's where Darnell Wright's draft stock soared because he was able to completely silence Will Anderson. I remember being at that game and turning to Clay Travis, who was sitting next to me at the game, and we said, is Will Anderson playing? We haven't seen him or heard his name once in this game at one point. So, yeah, I understand that complaint about him. I also think that Will Anderson is one of those guys that naturally it feels like the draft stock falls for him as you go along because he's just so solid and he's so quiet and there's not really a lot of bad or great out there about him that as you get closer to the draft, it's almost like prospect fatigue. Mm-hmm. And I think everyone naturally just kind of checks out on the guy simply because they haven't made a ton of noise, which a lot of times not making noise in the draft process is a good thing. The agent of these players would tell you it's a great thing to not make any noise leading up to the draft. So I can see it both ways with Will Anderson, but I would definitely say Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith's another one that comes to mind that I feel like they would take over games more than Will Anderson.
Mm-hmm. Chad Withrow with us, Outkick 360. Last one for you, or I guess hot mic with Hutton and Withrow. I struggle with that. It's going to take a while here for me to get that.
I haven't had to say it much yet because I've only hosted the show once with Hutton out, where I'm the lead host. So I'll probably screw it up at some point too. So don't worry about it. But yeah, I nailed it that day, but no promises for the future.
Are you one of the believers? The Titans are picking at 41 and 72, 1 week from today on Friday. Are you one of these believers that says they can't trade those picks up for a quarterback because they've got so many holes? Or would you sell that and try to figure it out in other places? Because they do have holes. There's no doubt about that. But would you, if you felt like you were getting the quarterback, if you felt like that scout that said Anthony Richardson was Michael Vick with Brett Favre's arm, would you be willing to give up next Friday's picks in order to do it?
Jared, if I felt like everything you said, that I'm going to trade up and I'm going to get our Joe Burrow, let's say, for the Titans, I would give up those picks and every other pick in this year's draft to find that quarterback.
Sure.
I would absolutely give up those picks for that. I am not a believer, and you got to hold on to a second and third round pick because you have more needs. But you got to love the guy, right? That is the precursor to everything. If you love the guy and you want to show the courage to say it, hey, this guy's going to be our top 5 quarterback in the league, then give up everything. Give up the whole draft if you want to trade up and get that guy because it's going to be worth it in the long run. So I would absolutely give up the second and third round pick to trade up if you believe you've got your guy.
Chad Withrow, hot mic with Hutton and Withrow, part of the Outkick Network on 94.9 The Fan. Chad, great stuff. 1 week from today, we will be recapping whatever decision the Titans made on Thursday night.
Always fun, Jared. Cannot wait. And, we'll be talking about the Titans draft, previewing that second round pick. Well, they had that second round pick. And those
I don't know.
Picks, they trade up and get the quarterback. We'll find out next week.
There you go, Chad Withrow. Great stuff. Appreciate you, Chad.
Yep. Have a good weekend. See you.
Yep. Chad Withrow joining us on the program as always. I'm with him. It's people, we have too many needs for a quarterback. Then why is it that every team that picks number 1 every year takes a quarterback? The team that's picking number 1 every year has about 80 needs because they suck, and they still take a quarterback. Coming up next, I think there is some damage control that has been done. I think something slipped on the Titans front, and I think there has been some damage control. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
This is Phil Tomasino, and this is Smashville.
Cousins put it in front of the score. Tomasino lofts it in. 2-0 Nashville.
This is the flagship of the Nashville Predators Radio Network, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
We buy any car. We buy any car. We buy any car. Any.
Trading in or selling your car, truck, or SUV? WeBuyAnyCar.com takes the hassle out of selling in 3 easy steps. 1. Get a free online valuation. 2. Drive to your local car buying center. And 3. Walk out with a check in about an hour. So don't wait. Get your free online valuation now at WeBuyAnyCar.com.
Find out how much your car's worth at WeBuyAnyCar.
Do you have a VA loan? In this housing market, homeowners with VA loans have access to a ton of instant cash. Hey, Willie Donick here. Do you need cash to pay off credit cards and other high-interest loans? How does a check for 80 or 90 grand sound right now? Loan Pronto is helping veterans every day get the money they need with a quick and easy zero-cost cash-out refi with zero closing costs. With a VA loan, it's really cool because you can access up to 100% of your home's value. That's 100%. Use that money to pay off credit cards, home equity lines, car loan. Consolidate all your payments into one check per month and close in 2 weeks. Most homeowners who do this end up cutting their overall monthly payments by $800. And Loan Pronto's all-digital process makes it fast and easy. They're doing loans with super low APRs, and they love working with veterans. Call now. See what your options are. Call Loan Pronto, 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780, or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval.
O'Reilly.
Is your vehicle no longer stopping like it used to? Don't miss spring brake deals at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Our professional parts people will help you find the brake parts and supplies you need. Now through April 25th, get 15% off when you buy a set of Brake Best Select or Import Direct brake pads and 2 rotors. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts today or visit O'ReillyAuto.com.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
When you want live and local,
If they were just better at the offensive line.
You can be a contender in the AFC again.
They've had more winning seasons than not.
102.5 and 106.3 The Game has you covered. Looking for some national programming?
Why do I want to get a running back like that 5 more years?
The AFC now is so deep at quarterback.
Check out 94.9 The Fan. Nashville's home for all things sports is 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and 94.9 The Fan.
Hey, this is Philip Forsberg. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Todd, I don't get the sense that the Tennessee Titans would be willing to move all the way up to 3 for a quarterback, but I know that they are in the business of perhaps getting one.
Okay, that was on Thursday on ESPN, Diana Rossini. And as we have highlighted many a time with Diana's reporting, it seems like it is a direct connection to Mike Vrabel. And again, like I say, every time, this is my opinion when I say that I think that Diana says whatever Vrabel tells her to say, that it's my opinion because I don't want to get sued. But I do think that it is that Diana Rossini is in the satchel of Mike Vrabel. I believe it. And I believed that for some time. And last year we really figured that out, because Diana kept having insight on the Titans. And then there was one day where they were arguing about the Titans on that morning show on ESPN. And Diana said something about how terrible the roster was and that Mike Vrabel's such a great coach. And it was like a shot at J-Rob and a shot at Tannehill. And so it was pretty obvious, who was there leaking to Diana, at least in my opinion, as I continue to say. And so just like that time, that it was kind of a throwaway, that it exposed my eyes to where Diana was getting her info from, that right there, it was not a segment on ESPN about the Titans. What it was a segment about the Houston Texans, and Todd McShay mentioned, well, if Indianapolis loves Will Levis, then the 2 teams that could be interested in C.J. Stroud if he falls are the Raiders at 7 and the Titans at 11 in a trade-up. And they could trade up to 3 with Arizona. And Diana says, well, I don't get the sense they're trading up to 3. Which, again, if you're like me and you believe that she's in the satchel of Mike Vrabel, that is Diana Rossini saying they're not trading up to 3, but they are looking quarterback. So Diana Rossini went on with Buck across the street and did an interview. And this is very different than just a throwaway line and a topic on ESPN where we're just talking and I'm just telling you, I don't think Tennessee's going to do that. That was a throwaway line and a non-Titans topic. When you go on Nashville radio, you are talking about the Titans. I believe Diana went on across the street and she said, let me pull up the quote just so I'm not misquoting anybody or mischaracterizing anything or whatever have you. Apparently, Diana Rossini said, and I had this pulled up and now I've lost it. Diana Rossini said that the Titans are not absolutely in love with any quarterbacks. According to Diana Rossini, quote, as of right now, there's not a quarterback in this draft that the Titans building is absolutely in love with. I think that's a lie. I think that is a lie. When we talk about draft season, I think that is, in fact, the exact opposite of what is true. So I think yesterday, and I think Vrabel tells Diana, in the case of the draft, like, oh, yeah, we're not going to trade up to 3 or whatever, because Vrabel's got to give a little in order to get a little. So Vrabel tells her, I don't think Vrabel wants it out there that they're not interested in trading up to 3, or I certainly don't think that Vrabel wants it out there that they're in the market of a quarterback, so then people start doing their digging. But we picked up that one little sentence and we ran with it all day yesterday. So now Diana, again, I'm sure there was probably a conversation from here to there that was, dude, we told you that, not thinking you'd go on TV and say it. And then the damage control would be, well, I'm hearing they don't like any one particular quarterback. So if you're thinking about that's the Titans guy, don't be. And I think the Titans, and I don't know who it is, I don't think it's Hendon Hooker. I think it's either Anthony Richardson or Will Levis. And I think they like one significantly more than the other. And I think that they're going to try to move up. I look at Atlanta at 8, and I think that's the team. Because I could see Atlanta saying, okay, by making this trade, we're going to get another player, but we're not going to get Devin Witherspoon. You know, the real elite players of this draft, Carter, Anderson, Tyree Wilson, they're probably gone. Christian Gonzalez, Bryce Young, they're probably gone by Atlanta at 8. So, okay, Devin Witherspoon or Peter Skoronski or trade to 11, still maybe get that player, or we get a good player like a Paris Johnson, and we get more players with the extra picks that we had. But I think they love somebody. And I think the reason why Diana came out today, we call this lying season for a reason. The reason I think Diana came out today and said, I don't think their building is in love with anybody, is because that's what they want everybody to think. They want everybody to stop digging through the trash to find out who it is that they like. I think it is very obvious to me that they went to every pro day of the quarterbacks. They went to Alabama. They went to Ohio State. They went to Kentucky. They went to Tennessee. And they went to Florida. And they brought the 3 guys in. I think we all assumed that they weren't going to be able to get Bryce Young unless Bryce Young and Vrabel are conspiring to tank his draft stock so that they can trade up and get him. I think that they didn't bring in Bryce Young because they didn't see that as a possibility after his pro day performance. So they brought in all 3. They brought in Hooker. They brought in Levis. They brought in Richardson. And I think they know. Like when they brought in Hooker, they probably knew they weren't going to take him. But they want you to think, and they want everybody to think, that they're looking at them the same. They want this to be like a shell game, right? Like a 3-card Monty, and you don't know which one is the card that they like. And so when I hear Diana come out the day after she just off the cuff fires off some information about the Titans, and then she goes on Nashville radio where, again, if it were a segment about the Titans on ESPN, which you all know they don't do, but if it were a segment about the Titans on ESPN, you know, Diana's got the talking points she knows she's going to have. She's got the this, she got the. But when it's just Todd McShay throws out the Titans, it's like, hey, Todd, let me tell you, I don't think that's going to happen. Then it's like, ooh, she said what? So now it's, okay, hold on, let me try to not make a bigger deal out of this. Let's throw people off the scent again. I don't think they like anybody of this group more than any one other. I don't think they're in love with quarterback. They'd probably just sit back at 11. Sure. My gut, I think it's Levis. That's not who I like. You all know me. You all know I love Anthony Richardson. And when I saw that scout in the Bob McGinn piece say Michael Vick with Brett Favre's arm, I thought, my God, if that kid is smart and that kid's got it in the heart and that kid's got it in the head, I mean, he could be freaking awesome. And I did feel that way. I mean, that is, woo, Michael Vick with Brett Favre's arm. Wow. But you never know. But I love Richardson. So my gut is telling me that they like Levis. And I'll tell you why I think they like Levis. Now, Chad Withrow brought up the bathroom selfies and the yoked, pictures, and I do think that would make Mike Vrabel mad. Like, I do think Mike Vrabel's like, hey, focus on football. And I know you'll say, well, Derrick Henry does that. It's different at quarterback. It's different. But he scored exceptionally well on the S2 test, which the Titans invest in. And he plays in a pro-style offense, very similar to what the Titans have, and he's a tough player. And I think those things matter to Vrabel. And I wonder if the Titans just think that gap between what Anthony Richardson is today and what Anthony Richardson could be might be too tough to make up. Or that maybe they don't think that he can make it. I don't know. My gut tells me they like Levis. And so I think what they're hoping, now again, Indianapolis is telling everybody that they want to take Levis with the 4th pick. I think they're lying. I think they want to take Richardson. So if I had to put out a mock draft today, and I'm not a mock drafter and I don't have any inside information, I think Bryce Young is going number 1. I don't think anybody's trading to 2 or 3. I think Richardson's going at 4. And then Stroud, I don't know. Does Seattle look at it and say, okay, well, we've got Geno Smith, but C.J. Stroud is C.J. Stroud? Or do they say, no, we're going to take Jalen Carter or Tyree Wilson, an elite defensive player, because we already have our quarterback? Same with Detroit. Are they going to look at Jared Goff and say, well, we can get Tyree Wilson to go opposite Aiden Hutchinson and say, all right, boys, go get the quarterback when we've got a very good quarterback in Jared Goff? Or do we take C.J. Stroud and then auction off Jared Goff next year like a Derek Carr this year? I don't know. And then there's the Raiders at 7 to keep an eye on. Now, Mike Lombardi said that C.J. Stroud's not very coachable, and his son is the offensive coordinator of the Raiders, and Josh McDaniels is the head coach. And if this is the same guy that got to Denver and ran off Jay Cutler for Tim Tebow because he didn't think Jay Cutler had it, and then he got to the Raiders and he promised that he liked Derek Carr, and then he ran Derek Carr off, I highly doubt he's going to stake everything that he's got to a guy who's not coachable. So we got to keep that in mind. But now you're at the point where, okay, Levis is still on the board. Maybe they take him. Then you can get Stroud. Maybe Stroud goes off the board. Then you swap in with Atlanta to go get Willa. I'm just telling you, I think they like Levis. But the idea that they don't love somebody, bullcrap. I think they love somebody. Now, the idea that they know they're going to get somebody or not get somebody, that's a different story. 615-737-1025. JD says, I love how you think that anyone that doesn't agree with you sounds like a hick. Every time you make a point about somebody saying something against what your point is, you try as hard as you can to make them sound like a hillbilly. I do not do that. I do not do that. I do that sometimes. Not all the time. Or ever do that with hockey. Like when these crazy Preds fans, have these wild takes about, how good they think their team can be sometimes. But I will say this. I do hear that vibe a lot when it comes to people that are very short-sighted when thinking about the quarterback. And I thought about this with the quarterback today. There is no absolutes. There are no absolutes when it comes to how to get a quarterback. There's no, you can get him in the 6th round like Tom Brady. You can get him in the 1st round. You can get him with the 1st pick. You can get him with the last pick. I mean, we've seen that. There's an argument for everybody, right? There's an argument for drafting a quarterback when you've already got a really good quarterback because Green Bay did that, and that's how they got Aaron Rodgers. There's an argument for the last pick in the draft. That's what Brock Purdy was. There's an argument for the 1st pick in the draft. That's what Joe Burrow and Peyton Manning were. So there are no absolutes. But I do believe that this idea that, you've got to worry about something else before you worry about quarterback, I think that's crazy. I think that's crazy. Because I think quarterback's the number one thing. Outside of owner, I think quarterback is the number one thing in an organization. 615-737-1025, Stillman & Company, 102.5, 106 through the game.
Want to jump into the mind of a 15-year NFL vet? Well, here's your chance. It's Ask D-Mace.
Come on, bring them on.
Ask questions on football and life to Derek Mason every Friday at 12:30 on Ask D-Mace.
Don't mess with her. The skilled guy. Money reigns supreme.
On Caroline, Willie, and on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Middle Tennessee, you can count on an award-winning service team for all your home maintenance and improvement needs. Lee Company, we're A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau and trusted by thousands of homeowners in our community. Our team is ready to assist with all your home maintenance projects, heating and air conditioning, plumbing, electrical, appliance service, and more. Experience the convenience of calling one phone number for all your home maintenance needs. Call Lee Company today at 615-567-1000 or visit leecompany.com.
The Electronic Express Spring Clearance event has been extended. Get instant savings in every department, including all appliances, laptops and tablets, smart home, gaming consoles, speakers, and more. At Electronic Express, we have up to 50% off all your home theater needs, including 4K TVs, soundbars, and more. In stock and ready to deliver. Plus, buy now, pay later with up to 3 years free financing. Shop the Spring Clearance event in-store or online at Electronic Express. We make it happen.
Genesis Diamonds' once-a-year spring store-wide sale is here this weekend. 3 days of phenomenal savings across the board. You save up to 35% off Genesis' already guaranteed best prices. Rings, earrings, bracelets, bands, and more. Plus special financing. You can even trade in your old jewelry for some amazing new designs from our world-class designers who flew in just for this. Extra savings on GIA-certified diamonds as well as lab-grown diamonds. It's our biggest sale all year. This Friday through Sunday only. And only at Genesis Diamonds and Luxury Pre-Owned Rolex. Green Hills and Cool Springs. See store for details.
Family Leisure invites you to vacation at home with a new spa, pool, patio furniture, or wood play gym this summer.
I really want a spa.
40 spas on display from Artesian, Best Spas, and American Select.
Prices starting as low as $29.99.
Family Leisure has over 100 sets of patio furniture with free delivery.
That sounds good to me, too.
We should really look at the wood play gyms for the kids. Family Leisure has the Diamond Point swing set on sale at only $24.99 installed. Family Leisure's vacation at home sale in Franklin and Antioch.
Family and fun come together.
When you're an innovative business, every blinking cursor, every blank page is an opportunity. What will you do with it? Will you make something better or create something new? Our Dell Technologies advisors provide you with tools and expertise to do incredible things. Because we believe there's an innovator in all of us. For advice on smart PCs powered by Intel V Pro that's built for business, call a Dell Technologies advisor at 877-ASK-DELL.
The sports talk doesn't end on Friday. Join Michelle Knezovic and Junnie Riddle for Michelle and Junnie.
As long as he wants to coach there, he will be able to coach there.
I think that really did save the hope of this team.
Michelle and Junnie, presented by Superbook Sports, every Saturday morning at 9 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Strong opinions and a strong personality on your drive home. This is Stillman and Company, presented by TriStar Moving on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company, we have 1 weekend for everybody to kind of rest and relax and get ready for next week, the NFL draft. We have our official draft decisions that we have to make. We have our official top 5 Titans targets list that we have to make up. We have to rank our quarterbacks since we think the Titans may, in fact, be going quarterback. So I just want everybody to know this weekend, get some rest, folks, and get excited for the draft next week. We'll be on Thursday at Twin Peaks and Cool Springs, which we're really excited about. On Friday, we'll be at Wingstop. Caroline will be hosting rounds 2 and 3 with Derek and Chris. And, of course, you know, we're going to have all the tea. So we're very, very excited for that. So I have a couple things I want to get off my chest. A handful of Detroit Lions players apparently were suspended today for gambling. And Jamison Williams, the wide receiver from Alabama, the very talented wide receiver, he's suspended, and another player suspended, not for the season because they bet on NFL games like some of the other guys, but they're suspended for 6 games because they placed a bet at the facility. Now, I haven't listened to a lot of analysis on this or conjecture on this, and I already know I'm going to hear well, that's not fair that they can't place a bet in the facility on non-football sports like anybody else. And that we're also going to hear the NFL's in business with DraftKings and FanDuel and whomever else, MGM and this one and that one. And they've got a team in Las Vegas. The Super Bowl's going to be in Las Vegas next year. And they're out here saying you can't gamble on non-football when you're in the facility, but that if he took 2 steps out of the facility and pressed send, that it would be fine. Let me say this. Those are the rules. And the NFL can't play with the rules. Just because you think that well, is it really that big of a deal? And I don't know what Jamison Williams bet on. I don't know if it was basketball or a hockey or a horse racing or marbles. I have no idea. But if the NFL has very specific rules about gambling within the league, the NFL has to enforce those rules. Even if that rule is as simple as one step on the property, can't do it. One step off the property, parlay! The NFL has to enforce the gambling rules. There cannot be a gray area when it comes to enforcing those kind of rules. Because if it gets to the point like people feel, honestly, basketball, that was a scandal that happened 20 years ago, and people still think about it today when it comes to, is the NBA fixed? And I don't think the NBA has ever gotten over that. And I don't think the NBA, when they've got all these teams tanking, the Dallas Mavericks 2 weeks ago said, no, we don't want to make it to the play-in tournament. I think they're going to have a hard time overcoming that. You have an AFC championship game like you had that was so poorly officiated between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Cincinnati Bengals. You have that comes down to a ref's call. You have the holding in the Super Bowl. And people think, well, you let this guy get away with a gambling, but you didn't let this guy get away, but you didn't let that guy get away with. Can't do that. If you break the rules, and I've got to believe that the league educates all the players on the rules. I know it's in the handbook. Who reads the handbook? Now, I don't want to say that I don't read the handbook at work, because the handbook here at work is very important. But I know people are going to say, you think Jamison Williams is reading the handbook? Dude, those are the rules. I hate it for you. And I hate it because I think he's a good player. And I'm kind of rooting for Detroit because I like the coach and I like the quarterback. But you can't bet at the facility. I can't tell you why you can't bet at the facility. I'm just telling you that you can't, because those are the rules. And if the NFL has gambling rules, they have to enforce the gambling rules. You cannot let people start to believe that there is any bit of impropriety on the part of the league, or its players, or its coaches, or anybody else, especially its referees. The other thing I have to get off my chest, Ian, I don't know if I've complained about this on the air or not here.
Okay.
So I'm an Atlanta Braves fan. Somebody texted in earlier today and said, what do you think about the Braves this year? And I'm like, they're a wagon. The Braves are playing the Astros, who might be the best team in the American League, and the Braves might be the best team in the National League. Tonight's game is on Apple TV+. I do not subscribe to Apple TV+. I subscribe to YouTube TV. I have the DirecTV app. I have Amazon Prime. I have the Bally Sports app. I have Peacock, where they have baseball games on. I have ESPN Plus. I have a VPN. I have MLB.TV. I have every little streaming.com you can have. I've got it. And yet they just put them on all these different channels. Guess what? I'm not watching. It's like soccer decided to sell everything over to Apple TV. If you want to watch soccer, you've got to have the Apple TV. Do you have the Apple TV, Ian, for soccer?
I do, yeah.
See, because you like soccer. Me, not interested.
At least it's all on one, and I don't have to get multiple.
Don't care. Not interested. I am not interested in a 45th streaming.com service to pay for just so I can watch the Braves, once a month on a Friday night.
If only we had cable again.
And it's just so ridiculous that that baseball is going to say, well, because they put some games on Peacock, they put some games on Amazon Prime, they put some games on Apple TV, they put some games on Fox, they put some games on Bally's, and half the people can't even get Bally's.
Maybe TBS.
I'm not doing that. No, not interested. And I want this to be for every sports league out there. I want everybody to know. Outside, starting today, I'm not buying anything new. So they're talking about the NBA going to streaming services or whatever. Fine, beat it. Goodbye. I'll watch the playoffs just fine when they matter. I'm not even watching these playoffs. Baseball going to try to get me to sign up for Apple TV Plus. I can't even remember the passwords to everything that I have. That's it for us. We're out of here. ESPN Radio's got the Knicks and the Cavs coming up at 7 o'clock. We'll see you, Stillman and Company. Have a great weekend. 102.5, 106 through the game.